Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Market Open. It is Friday. We are live. We got through the week, but we are here on Friday. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We have a green pre-market on this Friday morning, and hopefully that green continues. There are a couple of reasons for that green. One of them is macro. The other one is related to Intel and AMD, and we will talk about that. That is, quite frankly, the story of the day. You guys saw the thumbnail, Intel and AMD. It's quite incredible. It's quite incredible. And quite frankly, I think it only continues to prove the logic of this bull market when you have other areas of the market start to have these explosive moves. I think those explosive moves, if they're warranted, which is what we're going to talk about today and explore all different angles, is helpful to not have only the Mag 7 carrying this bull market, which it seems like it's a much more diverse market than just the Mag 7. S&P 500, we are green pre-market, getting back everything we lost yesterday. 708.45, we were down about 0.39%. We are green, 0.36% in the pre-market. AMD is up 10.78% today. It's it's quite incredible. If you own AMD, it's just one of those days. It's one of those days you got to be pretty damn excited to be an AMD shareholder. And, I think everyone tries to own a stock at some point in their life that makes these massive moves and then makes massive moves on top of the massive moves. And it's the beauty of owning stock in a company. That $1 you bought at 200 is now worth a lot more. And the compounding effect of it truly is magical. And that's what's happening today with AMD. Intel up 25%. The reason AMD is up is because of Intel being up 25%. We will talk a lot about what's going on with Intel and AMD. TSM, that is up 4%, $4 away from 400. You got Nvidia that's lagging a bit, and I know people are kind of upset that all the semis are running except Nvidia. We'll talk about it. Nvidia right there at 200.5. ARM, which is also part of this CPU shortage that we have now entered into with Intel's earnings validating that. ARM, Intel, and AMD are your top 3 semiconductor names that are running. ARM right there, 217. That's up 6.35%. It was at 130 a month ago. Micron as well. More demand for memory continues to be pretty prevalent. Micron right there, 495, almost at 500. SanDisk at 955. CrowdStrike's up a little bit. Amazon busting through those all-time highs, 259. Did not touch. Actually, we did. We touched 261 in the pre-market. That spike right there, and then the decline I will tell you guys about. It was a pre-market article by Reuters, which kind of caused the entire market to go green. Faded a little bit of the move, and hopefully we keep the majority of the move, but it had something to do with Iran and Pakistan, and that's why we ended up getting at least somewhat of the green. ServiceNow, a little bit of a recovery, down 17% yesterday, 1% right here, nothing much, but at least it's some type of green. The broader S&P is holding on to that green at 710.19. Let's get into it. Thank you, everybody, for being here. It is Friday. It was a quick week, but it was a volatile week, and I think this week is going to have nothing on the week that is coming up next week with the Fed meeting, SoFi earnings, all of big tech, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, Meta, and a variety of other companies. You have Robinhood. You have so many other companies reporting next week. So next week's going to be a big one. But this week was also pretty important just to get tech earnings started. And yesterday, the day before yesterday with Tesla, ServiceNow, IBM, that was kind of a stinker. Yesterday was a real important day to get the market to be a lot more excited about what's going on. And hopefully we can continue with that momentum. I'm Beneficial. What's up? Vibe, what's up? Twisky, what's up? Tesla Granny, good morning. Roto, Irwin, what's up? What's up? D Sharp, good morning. Roto, Araya, thank you all for being here. Brandon, Aziz, Gio, Abel, Jake 2046, Custard Chips. Custard Chips. It's a hell of a name. Thank you for being here. Stock Market News. Evan, happy Friday to everybody. Oh, by the way, I didn't show you guys this. You know why today's going to be a good Friday? You know why today's going to be a good Friday? Rick Huang, Jasmine, Chad, Matt Broke, Lenny, Cindy, what's up? GBN. I found my vanilla chai. I haven't had this candle in 8 months. I found it in the drawer the other day. I was so happy. This is why it's going to be a good Friday. The weather's looking nice. Back to 70 degrees in Jersey, and we have the vanilla chai. This is like literally, this just makes everything smell amazing, dude. Like, who doesn't want to walk around smelling like vanilla chai, That's why it's going to be a good Friday. That is why it's going to be a good Friday. It's not gay to have vanilla chai. That's not like, how do you attribute that to a sexuality just because I like vanilla chai? Like, maybe it's zesty, but it smells good. It smells good. Cactus says, now we just need the instant coffee. Now we just need the instant coffee. D Sharp, what's up? Otis, Brad, Elmer, Cycle Time, Nia, Roto, Leah, thank you all for being here. All right. So let's get into it. Let's start off with Intel. We got to start off with Intel. Actually, let's start off with the Iran news, and then we'll get into Intel. So Pakistani officials at 7:27 a.m. said the second round of U.S.-Iran talks are expected. Pakistani government source, Iran foreign minister to reach Islamabad on Friday. And then Trump has issued a 90-day extension to the Jones Act waiver as per the White House, which would be good for oil production and the variety of other needs we need as a result of the demand supply shock when it comes to oil. And then oil declined as Pakistani officials said U.S.-Iran talks are expected. Now, oil has not declined that dramatically. We're still at $95 on crude. So, we were at 97 yesterday. It's down from 97, but obviously we were at 84 a week ago. So it's, it's still substantially up from where we were back then. But the pump you saw in the pre-market, which I hope doesn't get faded. It's already starting to get a little faded from the pump. We got all the way up to 713, which was a new high on the S&P. Now we're at 710. Was based on that one headline. The simple headline was Pakistani officials telling the media outlets that a second round of U.S.-Iran talks are expected. Now, what has been the story over the past couple of days? The IRGC has more control than the parliament and the president, and as a result, the IRGC is controlling the negotiations, and that's why we have not had negotiations. Trump basically having an indefinite ceasefire. He had a press conference last night. We'll take a look at some of those clips, and in that press conference, he basically said, Vietnam had multiple years. You guys only gave me 6 weeks. Obviously, he gave a timetable for 4 to 6 weeks, which is why people are expecting 6 weeks. But it was kind of like he was admitting implicitly, hey, it's going to take longer than expected, and you guys just have to give me the time. But I think implicit in what he was saying was, it's going to take longer than expected because I want to get a deal, but those guys need to make a deal, right? And if those guys don't even want to make a deal because they don't want to actually negotiate, then how am I supposed to get a deal done? So Trump tried not to only say it was based on the Iranians. He tried to show American strength, but at the end of the day, he is kind of admitting it's going to take longer than expected. And hopefully if it doesn't take as long as expected and we get these talks started over the weekend, maybe we get a notification on Saturday that JD Vance is traveling to Pakistan. That would be good for futures. But the question is just going to be if that happens. And if it does happen and we get closer to a deal, I think this bull market continues without all the volatility that we've been seeing over the past couple of days in terms of the uncertainty. If we don't, we're probably going down. So that's going to be what we have to watch out for on the weekend. And hopefully that plays out. All right, Intel and AMD. So you might be asking, why is the darling of the dot-com bubble hitting all-time highs? What is going on? How did this stock get here? How did we get here when it comes to, a name that theoretically is not supposed to be the leader in semiconductor manufacturing, chips, any of that stuff? Well, there's 2 things before we get into earnings. Number one, Trump and Jensen invested for a reason, and it is what it is. Trump invested at around 22, 23. Jensen invested around 24, 25. They both probably knew this was going to be a much more important company. And quite frankly, when Trump and Jensen both agree on something that's as vital to national security interests as chips, it was something that probably was bound to get a bit of a boost, even if in the multiples, trading at more than 100 times forward earnings. It's obviously very aggressive in terms of the multiple. But if you have the United States of America backing you and the biggest company in the world backing you, yeah, you already have that going within the narrative. But that wasn't enough. That got the stock from 20 to 40. What got the stock from 40 to 80? Well, it's the results you're seeing right here on the screen. They beat revenue by $1 billion. They beat on the second quarter guide on revenue by $2 billion. They beat on EPS by 2,800%. Now, the street only expected 1 penny, but if you put up 29 pennies, then it's a hell of a beat. And Wall Street cares about beats and raises more than they care about the actual numbers. We've seen that with ServiceNow. Like at the end of the day, it's perception more than reality. And so it's a hell of a beat, even if it's a low threshold to be able to beat on. They beat on the second quarter EPS guide by 250%, and they beat on gross margins by 3%. Why are they beating so hard? What allowed them to get to this level of growth? Because quite frankly, at the end of the day, the reason the market is rewarding them is because they put up this much growth. It is because of what seems to be one of the largest CPU shortages that we are now seeing in history. And as a result of that CPU shortage, which AMD is uniquely suited to benefit from because one of their big parts of their business are CPUs, same thing with ARM's architecture, that is why they are getting this momentum. HSBC raised the price target to 100. We believe the magnitude of the Intel's 2Q 2026 guidance beat supports our thesis highlighted in our upgrade note on April 21st that server CPU upside would start to manifest in the beginning of the second quarter of this year. We also highlighted that the server CPU upside potential remains undervalued by the market, as we expect overall 2026 and 2027 server CPU shipments to grow 20 and 21% year over year, driven by the rise of agentic AI. Jensen told us this back at GTC, that CPUs are going to be relevant. And I don't think people listen to him, including myself, that seriously, because, everyone's been talking about GPUs. And I think very few people have been, even the people that are investing in AMD. I mean, I don't think the majority of people are like, yeah, the CPU business is the core reason I'm investing in AMD. It is one of the parts of your thesis, but it was not like the overall defining architecture for how you came to that decision, at least not, back when the stock was $70, $80. But now it has become a big part of the thesis almost overnight. And probably at least over the past 5 months, if you've been keeping up with this CPU shortage story, then you've probably been maybe allocating to Intel and maybe decisively allocating even more to AMD because you realized that AMD would play a big role here. Some people that listen to the call, I didn't listen to all of it, but we'll listen to some highlights and parts of the transcript. Some people that listened to the entire call basically said it felt like Nvidia back in 2023 when they had that blowout quarter for GPUs, but for CPUs. And if that's the case, I mean, Intel and AMD are probably going higher. Would I buy them here? No, but obviously it's hard to buy them both when they're up this much, this quick. It's just one of those things where it's like, if we are entering into a GPU type of growth curve or S curve when it comes to the CPU market, then obviously this is going to be really beneficial for all the semiconductor names. Amkor is up 7% pre-market because of the packaging demand that's happening from this. TSM obviously is going to play a big role when it comes to CPU shortages as well in regards to manufacturing the chips. I mean, there's just a lot of different levels for why the market is excited today, and it's pushing semis to their 17th consecutive day of green inflows because now there's a different part of the semiconductor market that's ready to go green. Here's Dylan Patel, who talked about the CPU shortage yesterday and his thoughts on why CPUs are so important.
Yeah, so there's two main reasons why you need tons of CPUs. One is when you're doing reinforcement learning, the CPU is very critical to that. So before you would throw all the internet's data into the model, train it, it spits some stuff out. Now you train all the world's internet, you put all the internet data into the model, then you put it in this environment. This environment is like, hey, model, try this out. And it tries stuff out, tries a bunch of different things. And in the end, there is an environment which scores whether or not what it tried out is successful, and it grades it. And these environments can be anything. It can be, hey, check if the text was outputted in the right way, structured outputs. It can be very simple stuff, or it can be very complex stuff. And people are starting to get into very complex things, right? Like, hey, I want you to open this file, change it, edit it, update it, submit it to this website. I want you to open up this physics simulation from Siemens and edit this CAD model. So the environments can get more and more complex, and those environments run on CPUs. They don't run on GPUs. They don't run on ASICs. The ASICs run the model that takes the input data from the environment, runs it through the model. The model creates outputs of various different trajectories, right? Ways that it think it could solve it in different instances. Those trajectories are graded / scored, and the ones that are successful you train on and you update and you reiterate and you iterate. And so CPUs are very useful for that one. And then once you have these great models and you're deploying them, those models are generating code. They're generating useful output. That useful output, it doesn't go from a GPU straight to the human brain. It goes from a GPU or an ASIC through to a deployed app that you're deploying somewhere that actually just runs on CPUs. So that's another area where there's a lot of demand and things are sold out in a large way.
So at its core, the takeaway is that if we are going to get more into agentic AI and inference, CPUs are obviously going to matter. And there's a variety, I'll link that podcast. There's a variety of, he does a really good job explaining why there is such a big demand for these CPUs. But in a world in which agentic AI is only getting stronger, right? Trainium, Graviton, all these different chips, we're seeing these custom ASICs. As Jose would say, we are compute constrained, which means it's not just CPUs, it's GPUs, but it's the combination of both into this new world in which, the news yesterday was that Meta's firing 8,000 people. One of the reasons they're firing 8,000 people is because they likely want to justify their investments and offset that on compute. So, if you're going to have more and more companies fire people to spend on compute, and you have more and more compute constraints, which is why Nebius, Iren, Cypher, even CoreWeave even have a business model because there's so many compute constraints, it seems like everything is just going to explode. It already has exploded in the level of demand that it's getting, but the explosion hopefully will continue heading into next year. You have estimates now coming out from the big banks saying that the Mag 7 spent about $650 billion in CapEx this year. You've got early estimates saying they're going to spend $1 trillion next year. And if they spend $1 trillion next year and 1.2 trillion the year after that, I mean, this story of the AI build out is just not slowing down. Intel on their call said CPU is reasserting itself as the indispensable foundation of the AI era. Demand continued to run ahead of supply for all of our businesses, especially CPUs. A year ago, the conversation about Intel was whether we could survive. Today, it's about how quickly we can add manufacturing capacity. Our collective AI-driven businesses now represent 60% of revenue and grew 40% year over year. AI revenue was $5.1 billion, and ASIC growth was up more than 30% sequentially and nearly doubling year over year. The other thing that the AI or that the Intel CEO said about AI in general is that they had some excess inventory, which was part of the reason they went down in Q1, because there was too much excess inventory. The street was like, okay, there's not enough demand to sell this stuff. They were going to throw it out. And part of the reason they beat in this quarter was because customers, once again, are compute constrained, and they were willing to have 4 or 5 year old infrastructure that Intel made that they couldn't sell and said, hey, we'll buy it. And as a result of that, you just saw this massive level of explosion in the earnings growth, but also it signals to the street, oh, wait, there is a lot of demand, more demand than we can even imagine, which means AMD, Intel, Taiwan Semi, Nvidia, Broadcom, Micron, all of these components, they're simply going to beat on their numbers and beat in a way that maybe is better than what we are even expecting in our most bullish case. TSM right there, just under 400, which is why the street is very excited. Obviously, that's good for IREN, which is getting a bump right there, 53.49. It's been a while since IREN broke into the mid-50s, but there it is. That's bullish for Nebius, which is green, 162, bullish for CoreWeave. Like, you know, it's not a software-driven market anymore where it's a business model where you print money by making a piece of code once and then selling it to the world. It's a business model that's driven by everyone having the ability to print code because of AI, and that AI requires an intense level of hardware, and the supply chain on that hardware has a variety of different players, and that is the build out that we are seeing that is fundamentally carrying the US economy and the stock market right now, which is very, very exciting. Now, why is AMD up? AMD also makes a bunch of CPUs. AMD, I mean, this move is just unprecedented. 339, 11%, it hit 346 in the pre-market. I'm curious, if you're heavy in AMD, what are you doing here? Are you selling? Are you taking some profits? Are you selling aggressive covered calls? I think this is the moment you've been waiting for. If you're heavy AMD, like, this is your thesis finally playing out in real time. And going into earnings, if Lisa Su delivers anything to the level of what Lip-Bu Tang did, then I kind of think it's going up. I mean, could it have a pullback because it's overextended? Sure, Intel's definitely overextended. We know that, like, just looking at the RSI, looking at the valuation, obviously, but this is also the moment. And quite frankly, if Intel and AMD, one could argue, are quote unquote overvalued, but they are Nvidia back in 2023, maybe not to the level of magnitude that Nvidia was in 2023, but still it's kind of that same story. They're going to approach a normalized valuation pretty soon if they put up the earnings growth, especially if the stock kind of stays stable, because then the price to earnings will match the level of growth that they're putting up in a more reasonable way. So it's exciting. It's very, very exciting. I see a lot of people saying holding. Cindy said I sold 25% or 20% of my position. That's not too crazy. Jay Wee says AMD is dumping hard on earnings. The only thing that, obviously scares any investor is that when you pump this hard, I mean, again, AMD was $200 a couple weeks ago. Now it's at $340. The earnings expectations might not even be good enough to justify the move that it's already made. But if it is, and it's headed to 400, I mean, this is going to create a lot of wealth for a lot of investors, in particular retail investors, because retail has been on this story for a very, very long time. So pretty exciting stuff. That's what you got for AMD. That's what you got for Intel. Congratulations if you are heavy in either. Again, I have a little bit of AMD that I bought at 208, not enough where it's making a meaningful dent in my portfolio, but it is very exciting to see this type of price action. And the question now is just going to be, can Lisa Su deliver? I think what's also the broader takeaway, even if you don't own AMD or Intel, is that we are finding other parts of the bull market in semiconductors that have room to grow. A couple of weeks ago, it was photonics. That was all the craze. Obviously, packaging has been part of the story. GPUs have been a big part of the story. Memory has obviously been in a very strong bull market. Western Digital, Seagate, Micron, SanDisk. Micron finally starting to catch up to SanDisk. Like, you're starting to see a lot of those names break out, and you're seeing those names break out for a reason, not just because of mass euphoria. I don't think people are buying Intel and AMD. I mean, some people are buying into Intel and AMD at these prices probably because of euphoria, but a lot of people are also just buying them because they see the growth sector and how large it can be. Now, in terms of an actual chart, This is the most overbought that semiconductors have ever been versus the 200-day moving average since June of 2000. So obviously it's getting up there. Ironically, June of 2000 is when Intel topped, and Intel has officially 26 years later made its highs. But the point is, there might be a reason for it this time. And last time, sure, there was a reason the internet built out, but we overbuilt capacity for the internet. Now, the fact that Intel is saying they're selling their stuff that they were ready to throw out just shows you, I don't think we're overbuilding here. Like, and AI, one could argue, is going to be a lot more important than the internet. It doesn't have to be that complicated to analyze. It's like, okay, if we don't have enough compute, we have way more demand. People are using tokens every single day to the point where it's becoming like trillions and trillions of tokens globally a day, which I think that might even be under us. I think it's more like quadrillions if you take into factor the Mag 7 and how much they're spending. Then the story is not slowing down. The story is only going to accelerate. Meta and AWS, this was another big deal this morning. Meta is expanding its AWS partnership to deploy tens of millions of Graviton cores, which is some of Amazon's custom ASICs. Being one of Amazon's largest Graviton customers, these chips will help run CPU-heavy agentic AI workloads like reasoning, search, and multi-step task orchestration. So you've got Meta not only working with Nvidia, not only working with AMD, now working with Amazon. They had a deal with Broadcom as well. There was a rumor of their deal with Google TPUs. That hasn't been too confirmed yet, but Meta now working heavily with Amazon. That's why Amazon spiked to 261 this morning. And the good news keeps coming for Amazon, as that one has also hit all-time highs as well. Put in the chat if you are buying Intel here. Very curious, because Intel's not a big retail trade. I mean, and let me know in the chat if you own Intel. I just don't think, I think it's less than 2% of you guys probably own Intel. This has not been the trade that has been that heavily followed. Some retail's definitely in it, and they've made money. But I mean, with AMD, with Broadcom, with Nvidia, with Micron, those are more of your semiconductor trades, not Intel. The question is, who has the guts to buy it at 80? Now, I asked that question on Micron at 450. And if you held through the 318 lows, you're green on Micron if you bought at 450. But it's hard, right? When a stock rallies that much. I mean, this is why a lot of people didn't buy Nvidia in 2023, because they just couldn't believe that it can keep rallying based on the growth continuing to inflect. You have to really understand the GPU shortage that we were having. I am no expert on CPUs, but if you are an expert, then maybe this becomes a buy. If not, I wonder what the price action ultimately looks like. Now, the PE on this thing is obviously aggressive. It's over 100 times. So I don't think the street cares about valuation right here. I think the street thinks that the valuation will compress as a result of continued earnings growth. The question is just going to be, will Intel end up putting up that type of earnings growth? It is quite incredible. It is quite incredible. Intel, AMD, it's their day. Hopefully when the market opens, they can hold on to this love. AMD right there up 11%. Intel up 24.7% as that continues to go green. All right, let's get to some other headlines. Then we'll see what happens with Intel and AMD when the market ultimately opens and where the price action leads us. The AP, White House didn't immediately respond to questions on Iran's foreign minister going to Pakistan, and it didn't respond to questions on whether the U.S. would send a delegation. Okay, so the White House not responding to any speculation this morning on the negotiation starting again. Pakistan saying it's likely to happen. The White House not responding. Hopefully, the Pakistanis are right about this, and we see some negotiations. Here's a couple clips of Trump yesterday when he was asked about the war.
But sir, is your administration 8 weeks that the U.S. now has been involved with Iran? You had initially said it would be 4 to 6 weeks.
Well, I hope that, but I also took a little break. I gave them a break. And remember this, I want to make the best deal. I could make a deal right now. Do you know that if I left right now, we had a tremendous success. It would take them 20 years to rebuild, but I don't want to do that. I want to have it everlasting. I want to have it where they never have a chance to get it. I mean, the way you asked that question, yeah, I did say it. I thought it would take 4 to 6 weeks, and I was right, because at the end of 6 weeks, at the end of 4 weeks, their military was decimated.
So are you saying
but now what I'm doing, I can't tell you that. I don't want to put that kind of a timetable on it, but it'll go pretty quickly.
But sir,
And this is what he said about why Iran should be eventually opening the strait.
They would have opened it up 3 days ago. They came to us and they said, we will agree to open the strait. And all my people were happy. Everybody was happy except me. I said, wait a minute, if we open the strait, that means they're going to make $500 million a day. I don't want them to make $500 million a day until they settle this thing. So I'm the one that kept it closed. We have total control of it. And it'll open when they make a deal or something else happens that's very positive.
But what's your impression that the American public?
They would have opened it up 3 days ago. They can't.
And then this is Trump when asked about gas prices.
What's your impression that the American public?
Excuse me, what do you say to the American people who question how much longer this will take? Obviously, you know that they are having higher.
You're such a disgrace. Did you hear what I just said? Vietnam. How many years was Vietnam?
I understand, sir. But
How
you
many
are
years
past
was
your
Vietnam?
6-week deadline, so
Well,
I'm
I
just
did my
wondering- I'm
I
just
took-
wondering
I
what you
took-
say to the American people
I
who are
took
wondering about
the
the
country out
latest
militarily in the first 4 weeks. I took it out militarily. Now all we're doing is sitting back and seeing what deal. And if they don't want to make a deal, then I'll finish it up militarily with the other 25% of the targets. We've hit.
What's your impression that the American public? Excuse me, what do you say to?
So you got a Trump from last night that's basically making the argument that it's going to take him time and that he's not going to rush ending this. I also think he's a bit confused on if he's going to be able to get the negotiations to happen anytime soon because of the counterparties that he's dealing with. But, you know, you got Trump just saying, I need more time and you guys shouldn't be forcing me to get this job done. The market, once again, is giving him that time and quite frankly is ignoring the level of volatility in the oil markets. I mean, yesterday, again, we haven't broke 7,000 yet to the downside. So if we haven't broke 7,000 yet to the downside, although we've had some pretty ugly headlines that you would imagine would get us there. I mean, yesterday we almost got there, 703. And once again, I woke up pre-markets. I did not expect to be green in pre-markets. I know Intel and AMD would be green. I did not expect, you know, the market to be green, but you got a good headline saying negotiations might be back on. Boom, the market goes green. And so from that perspective, the question is just going to be how long do we have to keep going along until real negotiations end up taking place and we can get an end to this. Also, Trump was asked yesterday about a question that I think a lot of people have been wondering about, which is insider trading, prediction markets, people betting on other things inside of the White House, knowing stuff. They actually just arrested a guy who made $400,000 off a $34,000 bet because he was inside of the White House and he knew that the administration would get rid of Maduro in January. And he's being charged with multiple acts of fraud. So here's what Trump had to say about what's going on with all this insider trading.
Well, on the Iran conflict too, and there have been some trackings where people suspect that there's insider trading happening on these prediction markets around the war. Are you concerned?
Well, you know, the whole world, unfortunately, has become somewhat of a casino. And you look at what's going on all over the world, in Europe and every place they're doing these betting things. I was never much in favor of it. I don't like it conceptually, but it is what it is. No, I think that I'm not happy with any of that stuff, but they have all these different sites. They have predictive markets. It's a crazy world. It's a much different world than it was.
Well, on the Iran conflict too, and there.
This has been my point for the past year, ever since Trump launched the meme coin. He doesn't care, folks. He does not care, which means Paul Atkins is not going to care, so you got to get yours. Sitting and complaining about Don Jr. making millions because he knows something that you don't know, that's just not going to be the way to progress your own life. It might make you feel a little bit better, but it's not a winning strategy, especially when no one's listening to the complaints. The president of the United States does not care. You heard him right there. It is what it is. So as scummy as it feels, at the end of the day, they're not going to investigate it, which means you got to do what's right for you right here. And that means I think we're now in an environment until the next term, until the next administration, where anything goes. So we should not be surprised if we see more futures manipulation or random swings up or down and someone profiting money off that. Like anything goes. And at that point, if anything goes, there's not much we can do from there. Marvell, that's up 2.98%. Comfort Systems also crushed earnings. That's up 5%, and that is green as well. They crushed earnings. They're very important for HVACs when it comes to data centers. SAP didn't have a crazy earnings. Like, there wasn't anything that exciting here on SAP, but stock's up 7.35%, which begs the question, why did they take ServiceNow down this much? Like, it's very confusing. Qualcomm getting a little bit of a breakout here, 11%. I don't know if there's news on that. Or maybe Intel and Intel and AMD causing that little bit of a pump, 11% right here. Qualcomm is the only semiconductor name that has not moved. Forget this year, but in the past 5 years, it's up 1% in the past 5 years. So, I mean, if you talk about a breakout, obviously the growth is not really good. There really is no growth. It's like 1% revenue growth. So you're not buying it for growth. You'd be buying it for a narrative or the potential of a narrative breaking out. I don't see any headline though on Qualcomm unless Intel and AMD, but they would have pumped before. They would have pumped right when Intel and AMD came out. This one's getting a breakout right now. Oh, I don't see it. I don't see the headline. Maybe just a lagging play. If it's lagging behind Intel, then it took about 12 hours to start its run. But there you go. 13% right there on Qualcomm as that one goes green. Qualcomm's ARM data center CPUs is scheduled to launch in June. I mean, they do work with ARM pretty closely. They also work with Apple pretty closely. And Apple has been lagging over the past couple of years as well. So I don't think Qualcomm has been the best proxy for Apple just because Apple has not had explosive growth. But yeah, I guess it would be ARM CPU architecture. I mean, ARM is running. It's just weird because ARM immediately started running last night. Qualcomm's breaking out in the pre-market. So you would have expected Qualcomm, if it was a direct beneficiary or at least perceived direct beneficiary, to keep running as well. Look at ARM, 222.50. 222.50 as that is going green. Qualcomm does not have earnings today. Yeah, it's not today. Today's a Friday. It would be next week. Qualcomm has earnings the day of Amazon, Microsoft, Meta, and Google. Yeah, next Wednesday. Next Wednesday is when they have earnings. All right, so we talked about Intel. We talked about AMD. We talked about this potential Iranian negotiation starting. We're going to see if that officially ends up happening or not. Hexeth was live today. He said some of the same stuff. Didn't say anything too crazy. By the way, at 11 a.m., Real Blonde Broker will be on the channel. I know a lot of you guys have been asking her to come on again. She's going to be there for like 25 minutes. It's not going to be a super long, like technical Tuesday type of thing, but it will be some TA on 5 to 10 names that a lot of us love. We'll start off with AMD, of course, but she'll be on at 11 a.m. She hasn't been on for a couple months, and we'll get some of that TA. AMD 11% as that continues to go green. Wow, Michael Burry just bought a new stock. For a guy this bearish who has $100 Nvidia puts, he keeps buying more stocks. Anyone want to take a guess? The last few were Adobe, PayPal, Salesforce, Viva Systems, and then obviously GameStop. It is not SoFi. Where is SoFi pre-market? It is not SoFi. He did buy more GameStop the other day. 1853. SoFi's up 1%. Nebi's up 3.45%. It is not ServiceNow. It is Microsoft. I don't get how you can be this bearish Nvidia and Palantir and the market's going to collapse, and then you're going long one of the biggest AI names in the market that, guess what, needs a lot of CapEx spend, which you're criticizing every other day as like fake. Like, what exactly? This is no. If I said, dude, if he bought Micron, that would have been quite incredible to imagine if he actually bought Micron. Because, you know, I would imagine someone like him thinks it's all cyclical, it's all going to fade. This is the top, yada yada. Can't take a chance on stuff like that. I mean, I don't hate the buy. I think Microsoft's a good buy. I just like, you know, he's a bit more aggressive when it comes to criticizing this market. One of the major players in this market. But there you go. Microsoft, again, Microsoft got unnecessarily taken down yesterday along with Palantir, Oracle, Apple, and a lot of those names because of ServiceNow. ServiceNow not really recovering here. 85, 86. I wonder if this one recovers. I do not think it deserves to be down 17%. I wonder how long it takes to recover. I do think it will eventually recover. Question is going to be when. And quite frankly, I think the SaaS sentiment is just so bad, which might be the buying opportunity, but also winners keep winning, and the semis continue to win because of sentiment shifting across the entire market from these sectors that are just not performing. Fintech and SaaS are a part of the list, and they're going into semis. And as a result of that, I don't think it's that crazy to see the semis get the type of rally that they are getting today. Now, speaking of broader market rallies, take a look at this. VOO, which is essentially the entire market, $913 billion in AUM. They've added $43 billion year to date. It was 595 billion only 12 months ago in April of 2025. So they've added 1.25 billion in AUM every single day in the midst of all the volatility that we've had, 25% bigger since a year ago. It's bound to hit $1 trillion in assets if it keeps up at this pace by August 1st. I mean, people are buying. Like, people are buying. For all the bears that are out there saying this entire rally has been fake, bull, it's a dead cat bounce. It's like, well, money is coming in, and it's coming in at a rate that's quite incredible. 25% year over year on one of the biggest indices on the planet. I mean, VOO and chill has not been a horrible strategy through the midst of the volatility, and hopefully that strategy continues. But a name like Intel, I think, is Intel part of the Intel got kicked out of the Dow Jones for Nvidia in 2024. But Intel, AMD, they are part of a bunch of other indices. If those stocks continue to go higher, then those indices and the people that invest in those are forced to buy more Intel and AMD, which is also part of the reason we're probably seeing such a big surge right here. And the weighting just gets higher as a percentage of market cap in those indices, which is kind of why we're seeing a bigger move. Intel right there, 23%, Core Eve 2.4. Amazon, are we hitting 260 pre-market? There you go for Amazon. Not too bad. We needed one day in this quarter where we had really good tech earnings. We haven't had it for a while. Tesla, ServiceNow, IBM really crapped the bed. Netflix didn't give us anything. And Intel and AMD, even though AMD didn't have earnings, is what ended up saving it for us. Intel was raised across the street in their price targets. KeyBank 70 to 100, Benchmark 76 to 105, HSBC 95 to 100, Melius Research 75 to 100, Citi 48 to 95, Seaport 65 to 90, Cantor Fitzgerald 65 to 90. I mean, just across the board, the institutional investors raising their targets right here on Intel. Is there any Qualcomm news? It seems like it's getting a bid because of ARM and the relationship with ARM in the CPU architecture that they both work on together, but there's not a specific headline here on Qualcomm, up 11% again. This is one of the only semiconductor names that really has not made a move. Now, a lot of people were asking last night, what about Nvidia, right? Why is this thing not moving? What's going on? All these stocks hitting all-time highs, superseding their all-time highs by massive amounts. How come Nvidia is not moving? I think there's a very simple response to this. Number one, it went from 163 to 200 in a couple weeks on a very large market cap. That's not easy for it to happen. Number two is it's a very large market cap. It's basically 5 trillion. It's just, AMD at 340 billion is easier to get to 500 billion than Intel at 5 trillion to go to 7 trillion. Like, it's just the law of large numbers here. And so I think that's one of the reasons. The other reason is I think the street once again wants to be proven wrong on those earnings. Remember, Intel's getting this pump because of earnings. AMD could lose this pump if they have bad earnings. I think Nvidia, this might be the final quarter where they actually put up the earnings that are necessary to get momentum. And if they do, which again, they've been doing for the past couple of years, but like this time they really need to prove that it's going in the right direction, and that's going to be there. Now, Intel or Nvidia, a lot of people are saying, well, what if CPUs are competitive with GPUs? Which to an extent they are, but Jensen already discussed this at GTC, that Nvidia is going to be a net supplier of CPUs, and they're working. That's part of the reason they made the investment in Intel, to bring in other players to help them with the CPU GPU mix. So I don't think CPUs are going to be competitive to the point where you sell Nvidia and buy Intel. Like, that's not that type of logic that I've seen some people talk about is not really reasonable to me. It's not Nvidia's moment right now. Nvidia's had a pretty good moment for the past couple of years. It is Intel and AMD's moment right now, and Nvidia's got to get some of the shine back when they deliver on earnings, but that's going to take about a month in order for that to get there. We're saying that every Nvidia earnings, that's fair, but can you blame Nvidia on every earnings? It's easy to say we're saying that every Nvidia earnings and we're mad at Nvidia, but it's not Nvidia's fault. I mean, you heard how mad Jensen was on that Morgan Stanley conference when he was talking about the stock. There's not much more he can do. I mean, re-accelerating growth from 65 to 80%, beating the guide by 7 billion, gross margins being the highest in the industry. Like, there's not much more they can do. At this point, it's up to the market to give Nvidia more market cap. But we definitely can't blame Nvidia. And then the question is, okay, if you blame Nvidia, do you sell Nvidia to go buy Intel? It's like, all right, be my guest. Maybe that ends up working out. And legitimately, that could end. Maybe Intel's going to 100 and Nvidia's going to be stuck at 200. But it's a little bit more risky to take that type of a bet, given the type of growth that we know is going to come from Nvidia. Yeah, Marvell also has been phenomenal here. And all these tailwinds. Wow, Marvell 171. They also play a role in the CPU space. Look at that. Every piece of good news you can imagine for Marvell has started to take off. Those earnings, Google TPUs, Intel, photonics plays, pumping them higher. Marvell right there, continue to go green. Amkor is going green because the Intel CEO on the call said that packaging is going to be even more in demand. Amkor, one of the only couple, like 5 companies in the country that really does advanced manufacturing packaging for semiconductors. That's at 77, up 6.63%. So all these derivative beneficiaries of Intel's earnings are happening here because of Intel. What do you think about Hood going into next week? So again, IBKR did not have good numbers. I don't know if Hood's going to have good numbers. And part of the reason that Hood's been able to get this run from 60 to 85 is because of the bull market. I don't think it's been anything fundamental in Hood that has changed. But Hood is an example of every company that's not focused on what's current in the moment, which is obviously semiconductors, is just not relevant. Like, how relevant is Reddit? How relevant is Robinhood? How relevant is ServiceNow? They're not. Like, it's energy for AI data centers, it's infrastructure for data centers, and then it's the actual companies creating the semiconductors and the chips inside of data centers. Look at On Semiconductor. It was up 9% yesterday. It's up another 2% today. Or the neo clouds that are, building out the data centers. Like, that is the thematic right now. And maybe that thematic is a little too toppy. That's a fair point. I'm open to hearing that argument. But that's the theme that the market cares about. 17 days in a row of pure green. If we finish today green, it's going to be 18 days in a row. Best rally we've had in history of green semiconductor inflows. That's what the market cares right now. That's what the market's buying. And just take a look at this chart right here. Semis versus the S&P 500. This is an unprecedented level of move that we're seeing in the semiconductor space. And I hope it's not toppy. I hope this is not massive euphoria. Everyone's piling into the semis and it's just way too much because of the earnings growth and because of the unprecedented level of demand. But quite frankly, no one cares about fintech. No one cares about SaaS. No one cares about any of those other sectors other than the semis right now. And thankfully, there is a decent amount of semiconductor exposure inside of the S&P, which is, I think, what's carrying it to those levels. The Qs as well, continuing to go green. We got 30 seconds until this market opens on a Friday morning. Thank you, everybody, for being here. The Qs right there, 658. The hyperscalers hopefully are the next main beneficiaries. They made a move from the lows, but now we want to see if they can get to some of those premium valuations that they had a while ago. Meta was at 750. Amazon trying to break out officially from 260. Google just below that 340 level. It was at 350 at one point. Obviously, Microsoft, it was at 550 at one point. Let's see if it can get back up there, 417. Question is going to be, can we hold on to all this excitement? Oklo, yeah, energy play in the context of nuclear. Again, anything that's derivative of the data center build out and the actual hardware to build the chips is what's getting a bid. And currently that's what's leading the market. All right, here we go. 9:30 a.m. Friday, April 24th. Thank you all for being here. The stock market is now open. All right, wake your asses up. Let's get into it. Where is Intel? 82.34, 23% up on the day. 23% up on the day. I think this is the best day Intel has had since the early 2000s. Market cap is $417 billion as that goes green. AMD, 335, 9%. AMD, a $547 billion market cap. Absolutely incredible. And you're seeing it happen right here in real time as the street is believing that this momentum is not slowing down anytime soon. AMD right there, 336. My goodness. Micron, did we pass 500? We probably did. There you go, 500. 500 for Mr. Micron, 502.90. That's up 4.3% as that one continues to go green. There it is. I think a lot of people have been waiting for that 500 push, and that 500 push is officially happening. Meta goes red after firing 8,000 people yesterday. Street didn't think the announcement was good enough to offset some of their costs on CapEx, I guess, or maybe some of those pre-earnings jitters, but Meta not getting any love, Google not getting any love, Microsoft getting a little bit of love, Amazon barely above 258, trying to break through 260, but not getting there. Robinhood goes green, IBKR goes green, SoFi 1837, that's basically flat. Nebius, that's up. Iren getting a little bit more momentum from yesterday. Iren was up 10% yesterday, now it's up 3% right here. S&P 710, a red candle, not red, but a red candle. So you're seeing some of the other names sell off right there. Nvidia, at least getting a 1% move. SMH, $500. $500 on SMH. My goodness, that goes green. Poet up another 20%. Poet probably is being seen as a supplier inside of the CPU shortage that we're seeing right now, especially with Marvell, potentially with ARM as well. They already disclosed that they're working with Marvell. So that has been pumping from basically 7 to 14 over the past week, as that's been getting a lot more excitement. Tesla 375, that's green a little bit on the day. Broadcom 423, that keeps going green. Applied Digital, that's up 4.75%. Palantir goes red. Your software names are still not getting any love. ServiceNow, well, that's up a little bit, 2%. The other software names are not really getting momentum. Salesforce up a little bit right here. Google 336. Microsoft kind of trying to break out, maybe leaning towards AI today as a theme versus software. Micron is breaking out 506. 506 on Mr. Micron. HIMS, which had some good news around peptides and their partnership with Lilly. This thing's got a hold over 30 bucks right there, up 6.5%. It did touch 31.70 yesterday. Was not able to break out of that range. Zeta, that's slightly green. Credo up another 3%. American Airlines, that's up. You have South Korea, that's up 1.7%. SK Hynix completely, smashed earnings, validating more of the memory argument. Dell 212. Dell's not slowing down. MXL, I have not heard of this company, Max Linear. They're up 64%. They do something with data centers. I can't fully explain it, but I saw their earnings today, and their earnings, once again, smashed expectations. As a data center play, this is a $5 billion market cap. It was basically $3.5 billion this morning. 64% up on the day. This is not a meme stock. This is a legit company in the data center space. It's just they had such a decisive earnings that the street is getting a lot more excited about it. Intel, 84, 25%. 25% on Intel. Is Nvidia finally getting a little bit of a pump? Nvidia a little bit, 202. A little bit, 202 on Nvidia. Nothing too crazy, but we got at least something right there. Micron holding on to 500. ServiceNow actually 3% up. So that is green. Oracle with the Neo Clouds, that's up 1.29%. Where is CoreWeave? CoreWeave is down on the day, 117, basically flat. Rocket Lab and Space is also flat. ASTS, which hit 78 yesterday, that's back at 78, 70. ASTS has not been able to kind of normalize above 85. It was, stuck at around 88 to 90 for the past couple of weeks. And ever since that Blue Origin launch went wrong, this one's been stuck in the 70s. 1077 on Nokia. Rocket Lab at 85.13. Micron just below 500, did hit 506. So you got some selling pressure right there. Amazon finally getting a move above 260, $2.8 trillion market cap, 2%. Let's hope Amazon can hold that today. Again, that deal with Meta's validating a bit more of Amazon excitement right here. So Amazon getting some love. Amcor up 7.5%. Amazon, the best performing mag, 7 right here. Where's AMD? 342. 342 for AMD. Put in the chat what you're doing with AMD and Intel if you own it. But my goodness, this is pretty unbelievable. I'm shorting Intel now at 85. I wonder how many shorts come into the story for the semiconductor names that have been going nuclear. And I don't know. I wonder if the shorts really end up calling a short-term top right here, or if it just keeps going. If the momentum is just that good. CAR, that's back up 3%. This thing fell like 70% yesterday. So if you're in CAR at 800, I'm sorry, but yeah, that one got hit pretty bad. Western Digital, that's up 1. AppLovin, that's flat. Figma, that's down another 1%. Nike CEO bought $1 million worth of stock. So you got the CEO buying a little more. Birds should go from New Bird AI to New Bird CPU. That should be their new name. Maybe they'll get another 25% pump if they do that. And then Seagate right there, that's a 0.7%. Make a poll on if people would buy AMD at these levels. That's a good question. We'll do AMD or Intel. Curious to see where people are. I mean, again, with Micron pumping above 500, when I did this poll, when it was at not even 380, but at 450, it was 70-30 no, I'm not touching it. And I get it. It's hard to touch this. So, sometimes they're going to go up and you miss the story, but jumping into the story hoping that you're not too late is tough to do psychologically. It's not easy. Okay, so would you buy one of these right here? So let's do AMD, Intel, both, and none. And let's see what people think. Tesla getting a little bit of a bump. Yes, Tesla 379. Yeah, and Tesla earnings just weren't good. We got to be honest. It just wasn't good, but probably doesn't deserve to go below the 350, 360 range. That's where it was back on March 30th. So 380 to 400, I feel like is normal for Tesla to consolidate in. It's been there for the majority of the year. The earnings didn't really help, but you know what the earnings helped? Tesla earnings helped Intel, because Elon talked about their partnership with Intel, and the Intel CEO talked about how great it is to work with Elon. And that is probably going to be a massive tailwind for Intel's earnings long term. Yeah, SanDisk, that's also running 957, up 2.64%. TeraWulf, that's up 3.93%. That's green. 10-year, we haven't looked at the 10-year since yesterday. 10 years 4.3. Not good to see it that high, but it is up there. It'd be nice to see it at least at 4.1-ish. We have not got that yet. Oracle 176, Nvidia. I know it's a baby pump compared to Intel. And remember, every dollar Nvidia goes up is $24.3 billion in market cap. So it's just not the easiest. For AMD, every dollar goes up is $1.63 billion in market cap. And for Intel, every dollar is $5 billion in market cap. So you've got Nvidia with a 24-to-1 ratio with AMD and a 5-to-1 ratio with Intel in terms of market cap per dollar. It's just a little tough for it to move in the same way. Nokia, that's up 4%. Nokia is up 4% as well, as that is green. Amid, I'm finally rolling all my retirement accounts into Robinhood today. 2% match, 4,000 shares of Palantir, 8,000 SoFi, 11,000 BMNR, and a bunch of QQI and SpyEye. Boost those numbers a bit. Yeah, I mean, first of all, 2% match on that is nice, right? I mean, Robinhood was doing like 4% matches for some people as well. So, I mean, they are giving out a lot of money to continue getting assets on the platform, which is the right thing to do. I don't think the number is going to be good for Robinhood. It's just, you got to be honest. Like, retail trading in January, February, and March was abysmal. It just wasn't good. March was horrible. You know, January was really good, but February was bleh, and then March was just bad. So I wonder what the street's going to do with it. They took it up for a reason. They are expecting more good numbers going into Q2, which, you know, April's been amazing. But what does that mean if we look back and if the street tries to punish them for the numbers in Q1? Nvidia, 203. 203 on Nvidia. On Nvidia, as that continues to hold up. A-Lab, is that up? A-Lab's up 6%. Is Arista up? Again, networking. There's, as Jason has been saying, there's a raging bull market in these AI data center infrastructure plays. I mean, most of these stocks are up minimum 20% this year, if not much more. Qualcomm's still up 9% right there. Nebius up 2%. Those have been the plays of the year, which quite frankly just means SMH. Again, hitting another all-time high. TSM, are we 400? We are 400 on TSM. Nvidia, Google, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, and TSM are the top 6 companies in the world in terms of market cap. TSM, $2.1 trillion in market cap. Intel has had its highest surge since October 1987. Since October 1987, the highest day ever for Intel at 24.3%. AMD, I will check resistance at 350. In general, let's see how much is stuck there for AMD. 347, almost 350. 144,000 shares. 144,000. Now, Goldman did come out today, and they said that month-end U.S. pension rebalancing, 25 billion of U.S. equities will be sold, the largest non-quarterly sell estimate on record. So because pension funds are rebalancing towards the end of April due to taxes, you're going to see 25 billion of equities that are sold. I don't think it's going to have that much of an impact because the stock market is, you know, a lot more than 25 billion, but maybe you'll have some selling pressure on individual names that get hit the hardest. But so far, the street is not even factoring that in as something to be super concerned about. ARM right there up 11%. Robinhood just went green. Amcor up another 6%. IBKR is green. Q's all-time high at 659. as AMD is attempting that 350. She is attempting that 350. What do you think about Micron? Same thing I've thought about Micron. I mean, the earnings growth is unbelievable. It's exceptional. The question is, do you buy it at these levels? And again, you know, we listened to a couple clips yesterday that DRAM pricing, HBM pricing, all of that is going to double or triple. Like the Micron story has been the most obvious story for a while. And the PE has also supported that story, trading at a third of the big tech PE. But do you get in front of it, assuming there is more upside after it's up 7x in a year? Like, it's tough. And if you just swallow the bullet and say, "Yep, it's going up," then it is what it is. And those have done that have been rewarded. But I think the majority of people, again, still feel the pressure of being able to actually just hop onto the ride for something like that. Salesforce right there, 175. Because again, you have to deal with the volatility of a Google coming out one day and say, "We have a new compression algorithm that reduces the demand for memory." Right? Like, like you have to be able to listen to those headlines and not be paper-handed with your shares. And that means you have to really understand the memory story so deeply that you're just not letting it go. And you know, that's not the easiest thing for most people to do. Vertiv right there up 1.2% as that continues to be green. Texas Instruments, that one had a great earnings. It's giving back some of that love, up 17% yesterday, now down 1% of the day. Not too crazy. Amit, do you think sell-in may go away happens? Well, I don't know if that's going to happen, but Tom Lee thinks it will. So Tom Lee's projection now is that we will pump to 7,300 in that May-June timeframe, and then we will dump to basically below 6,000 is what he's saying. And then we'll pump back up to 7,700 by the end of the year. I mean, if this were to happen, all these gains we're seeing right here are fake. Like AMD is going back to 200. Micron's going back to 300. Intel's probably going back to 50. If we were to dump to 5,900 on the SPY, which is why, to me, this is a little unbelievable that this is kind of his core thesis on how the market's going to play out. And I get testing the Fed. I get the general volatility of May and June, which are not good months for the May and June are horrible months for the stock market. They're not good months. April is actually the best month. Part of the reason we're getting these April gains is April is, since 1950, the best month for the stock market. Second is January. Now, past 5 years, April has been bad. I think some of that data is skewed because of Liberation Day last year, but April tends to be a really good month. June and May tend to be horrible months. And so the question is just going to be, you know, can we hold on to a lot of this momentum going into the next couple of months? ServiceNow up 1.82. Up 1.82. Why would we dump during the summer? There could be a variety of reasons, but I mean, the reason I'm citing right here is just historically. People remember last June? Like, it was ugly for a little bit before we ended up rebounding. Now, we had a majority of the dump in April last year, but like summer months just don't tend to be the best. Also, the question is, you know, is the war going to be continuing in June? Because we're about to be in May, and I think a lot of people thought it'd be over by May. It doesn't look like it's going to be over in a week. So if it's not, you know, you still have that overhang. It's not going to help per se. Lemonade, that's up a little bit as well, as that continues to get some love. Snowflake is down 6 right here. Oh my goodness. Why is Snowflake down 6? The SaaS names are not down together. Yeah, CrowdStrike's down, Zscaler's down, Mongo's down, but Snowflake's getting hit the worst. Down 6% right here. What the hell did Snowflake say? That is not the best. But it's ugly. It is ugly. ServiceNow, 86. Adobe, 239. That one not making the move. Salesforce, 175. Amit, what do you think of Path? I don't understand their moat. I think RPA can be automated very easily. I think it's more of a feature versus a product. But then again, I don't know the company that well. I mean, like, do you buy into the semis or do you buy into Path with a SaaS offering that, quite frankly, is not as exciting? So I don't know. I wouldn't. But then again, it's down for the. I know it got to 17. Now it's at 10. So like maybe that's where the opportunity is. But it feels like all these undervalued core software names that people are excited about, the semiconductor names that have been down year to date are the ones that people are more excited about, or the ones that are at least putting up the earnings to get excited about. Zeta is the only really, really small software name that I think is, going to grow 35 to 40% next quarter. And I don't think Path is, putting up anywhere near that type of growth. Tesla 380. Tesla 380. Amazon, are we dumping? Amazon is indeed dumping 258.79. Well, it's not really dumping. Look at me. You guys got me influenced. It's not dumping from 261 to 258. But yes, there's a small red candle right there. There's a small red candle. Again, it's easy to see the gains and be excited in one day. The question is holding them. And I think all of us have had the experience this year of seeing a euphoric day, an exciting string of days, but then those stocks just not able to hold on to any of the momentum. And the next couple months is going to be really important to see, can AMD and Intel actually hold these gains, right? At what point do people get bored of Intel? It's the shiny object today, and they move on. Or is this a fundamental structural re-rating on AMD and Intel right now? Which Lisa Su's going to have to really deliver to prove that's the bull case. But if she does, maybe these stocks have a lot more room to run. Also, remember, at 600, OpenAI and Meta get 10% of AMD. So there is a heavy incentive for those two companies to want AMD to do well, which means they might end up buying more AMD products to juice those numbers up, because they get to each have $100 billion of equity. AMD would be worth $1 trillion if AMD gets to $600. And you only need $20 of EPS to get there. You put a 30 multiple on that, boom, you're at 600. The pathway to get to that $20 of EPS is not too crazy. Yeah, GPT 5.5 came out, super bullish for AMD. That was out yesterday. Street seems to be pretty excited about GPT 5.5. U.S. gas prices are now near $4.20 on average. $4.20 on average is the number for U.S. gas prices. So we have not gone below 4, even with oil coming down. I think it might take some time for it to be factored in, but also, oil is spiking back up as of 2 days ago, even if it's not at the highs that it was at. Tesla 381, SanDisk at 961. Consumer sentiment, do we get that? I think we do get that today in 10 minutes. Yeah, we do. Okay, 10 minutes. Street's expecting 47.6 is the consensus. Wow, that's much lower. Inflation expectation, Street is expecting 3.4%. We'll see what it ends up coming out to. Again, the consumer expectation stuff on sentiment is the dumbest report ever. It's 300 people. It's usually split across political lines. And, the Fed looks at it as like a basis for how consumers are perceiving inflation. Like, it's not real. And I hope when Kevin Warsh gets in, he says, hey guys, why don't we survey 100,000 people or 1 million people? We have the technology where we can send people a notification on their phone and they can answer a couple questions. Like, we can give them a couple bucks. I'm sure the Fed wastes more money on a bunch of other stuff and people would do the survey. Like, there's so many ways I think we could get way more accurate and timely data that would probably help the markets reflect in real time. TSM still holding 400. 400. Pakistani source. The American delegation in Islamabad is not authorized to negotiate. The date for the launch of the second round of U.S.-Iranian negotiations has not yet been determined. Has not yet been determined. Okay, the other scary part about going into the weekend is what ends up happening. We already saw potential attacks with Israel and Lebanon yesterday. Trump said the ceasefire was extended, but you have other media outlets reporting that there were attacks back and forth. So that were to escalate over the weekend, that would not be fun. I don't think Trump's going to escalate over the weekend. I don't think he wants to. I think he really wants to come to the table and get a deal. If he escalates, this market's going way back down. We saw what happened 2 nights ago when there was a rumor that the U.S. had attacked energy infrastructure in Iran. So I would hope this weekend's not going to be filled with volatility, but we are going to have to see. Do we trim AMD if we've been long for a while? This is the same question that people asked about Nebius. It's similar to any stock. You have to ask yourself, at what point are the gains good enough for you to take some of the position out? And at what point do you stop believing in the risk reward on the stock at a certain level to continue to offer an attractive reason to be in? Or do you just not care about any of that and you're a long-term investor and you're going to wake up in 2035 and you're going to be happy with every share of AMD that you have? It's a very personal question, but I don't think there's a right or wrong answer here. Now, if you're in it for a trade, it's a different question. But if it's like a legit investment that you established a core position on, I don't know if this is the moment where you sell, because this is the moment I think you've been waiting for. And you kind of let the compounding take place. AMD 342, Micron getting a red candle from 500, but still down. SMH also getting a little bit of a dip. Marvell dumping. Is it dumping? Marvell is officially dumping. That's definitely a dump. 175 to 160. Wow. Okay, so that one went straight red. Broadcom also dipping 2% as well. Yep. Okay, some of the semis going red right before we get consumer data. It also is a Friday at the end of the day. Generally have some selling on these days. Amazon's still trying to hold 260. What do we think of Reddit? Do we think Reddit's going to crush earnings? Because I think they will, but I wonder if the street's going to let them see 170, 180 again, even if they crush. Same thing with AppLovin. Does this thing just blow past 550? Where is volume on SPY? It's been, what, 20 minutes? Yeah, it's not good volume, dude. 5 million is... Past couple of days have been really crappy volume for SPY. Like, really ugly volume. It's not been enough. What did you guys say on the poll? 61% of you said none of those stocks. So 60-40. Or 9% say both. 8% say Intel. Yeah, I mean, the majority of people here are just not willing to buy into the strength here, which is fine. It's now a question of how much does the strength continue. ASDS getting clobbered, unfortunately. 76, 77. Intel still up 21%. Caleb Hammer put out a 35-minute video explaining why Reddit is evil. Reddit probably is evil. And Reddit probably is, I would agree, the most toxic website on planet Earth. Like, I don't post on Reddit. I've never been in the Reddit subreddits unless I really need information. It's like the mods on every subreddit are just like, they're like little dictators. But, I mean, they're growing 70%. So I kind of don't care about the product as much if the growth is that good. But yeah, I think it's one of the most toxic planets on the planet. Worse than X? Well, look, X can be toxic, but if you find your community on X, you can like enjoy reading posts on X every day. And you'll have some trolls in the comments, but Reddit is just like, it just feels constantly like people want to attack you. So I don't know. I think Reddit's worse. Palantir getting a 0.5% move down right there. Thoughts on the cruise lines? Oil needs to come down for them to get some love. Same thing with American Airlines. I mean, UAL lowered their guidance. American Airlines lowered their guidance. If oil actually gets back down to 80, I think they'd probably pump 4 to 5% from here. Everything dropping right now. But that's pretty much play on oil. Meta, at least a little bit of green. Is there a headline? I don't see. Oh, maybe there is. What is this? What is this? Hold on. Let me pull it up. Iran's parliament speaker has not resigned, going against rumors. Wow. So there's some rumors that the Iranian parliament speaker is resigning. Iran International News Agency says he has not resigned. Do we believe them? If we don't believe them and he has resigned, that wouldn't be good. We kind of need that guy because I think we're negotiating with him, right? Like, right? We're negotiating with the parliament speaker and the president. Those are the two people we're negotiating with. Right? If you resign, that would not be the best. Imagine the IRGC just came up to him and was like, hey, buddy, it's time for you to go. Now, granted, it could also be fake news, but that's the best thing I have for a headline right here. I don't see anything too crazy. IONQ, that's their top negotiator. That would be bad. Yeah, that I would imagine would not be the best. Down 4%. We're just negotiating with ourselves. Oh my gosh, dude. Oh my gosh, we got to see. Mike, and thanks for the super chat. Amazon now selling chips to Meta. Appreciate you being here. TJ, do you think Grab increases guidance based on Food Panda acquisition with AI initiatives? I thank you for the super chat as well. I think so. The reason the stock was also down this week is because there were some rumors that the Food Panda acquisition would not happen. I don't think any of those rumors have any legitimacy towards them, but once again, whether it's a Grab, whether it's a SoFi, whether it's a Path, whether it's a Zeta, whether it's a Reddit, whether it's an AppLovin, none of these stocks are in the sector that matter. And the sector that matters is AI and tech right now. It's just the honest truth. Like, we can't be blind towards it. The sector that matters is memory, data center, CPU, packaging, build out, HVACs. Like, that's what's getting the bid. Nothing else is getting the bid right here. Absolutely nothing's getting. Software's not getting the bid. Fintech's not getting the bid. International stocks are not getting the bid. Nubank, SoFi, even though JP Morgan and Bank of America, Morgan Stanley crushed it, they're not getting a bid. Restaurants aren't going crazy. Telecommunications not catching a bid. Energy drinks have no energy. Healthcare is only getting a bid because of the CMS rates. Outside of that, Bloom Energy, one could argue, is incredibly expensive, but Bloom Energy is important for energy and data centers, which is a bottleneck. Like, those are the ones getting a bid. And it's kind of their market right now to fully control. Snowflake, I don't get why it's down 8%. I don't get it. That one's ugly. That one is ugly. The market will broaden out from SMH. It has to. I think it would also be healthy for it to do it, but I wonder when or if that needs to happen. I mean, if these companies keep putting up Intel level earnings growth, which not every company is going to be able to, like Qualcomm's not going to beat earnings by 2,800%. Qualcomm is barely growing 1% of revenue. EPS is like growth is non-existent. So, but if they do, and the street is not expecting that, there's their heat map for the day, then maybe that re-rates a lot of those semiconductor names. What do you think of Ouster? I have heard of this stock. It's OUST, right? Yeah, I don't know anything about that. I know nothing about this. It's one I have to put on the watch list and read. I literally can't even tell you what they do. But I've seen the name float around. It's up 20% this year. It's another small cap that more people are at least thinking about. Air Test Systems, 97. That's up 1.5%. That one still holding on. Nate says, I like it. Okay, in one sentence, Nate, what do they do? LiDAR? LiDAR for EVs? Really? EVs are still a thing? People still buy electric vehicles? Look at Rivian. Nothing. Dude, the electric vehicle hype has completely died down. Like, no one cares about EVs anymore. It's just like people, ever since that tax credit went away. Now, I have an EV. I love my Tesla, but it's not been as exciting of a story for more people. Yeah, Lucid. I don't know why the Saudis keep pumping money into Lucid. Stock's down 95%. Like, what? Like, it's okay they have enough money. They can move on from this, but they keep trying to make Lucid a thing. And so does Uber. Uber is investing in them as well. Like, shouldn't Uber be investing in a lot more autonomous technology or something over Lucid? It's a bet on robotics. Oh, it's a robotics play, not an EV play. That actually makes way more sense. Way more sense. That actually has me interested because I think just like this GPU supply chain momentum has led to all these different stocks going crazy, I wonder if that happens in the humanoid robotics spot. And if it does, or just robotics in general, that would be important. Consumer sentiment, it's out. Let's take a look and see what we've got. And if these numbers are decent.
Had some shocking news within there, some historic lows. So let's look at it. 47.6 was our mid-month read on headline. That was the lowest ever going back to the 70s, which my database does. It rises to 49.8, but it's only the best since March, the month before these numbers were released. 52.5 is current conditions, up from 50.1, and 50.1 was also the all-time back to 70s low, and it moves up to 52.5. And since in March final read, we're 55 and change, it comps to March as well. Expectations, what lies ahead? Well, it still remains under 50, 46.1 in the rearview mirror. That was the lowest since the 1980s, and it moves now. Well, it moves now to 48.1. 48.1, you guessed it, the best since March, and we are at 51.7. Now let's get to the inflation reads. The one-year inflation mid-month read was 4.8. It moderates to 4.7. And of course, that would be the lowest, you guessed it, since March when it was under 4%. And finally, our 5 to 10 year inflation mid-month 3.4. It moves up a tenth to 3.5. That would be the warmest since October of last year. We see that the interest rates have really spiked up a bit this week, losing a little bit of their composure. As we sit at 382 and a 2-year, it's down a couple on a day, but it's up 11 on the week, 433 on a 10, unched on the day, up 8 on the week. And pay attention to that 435 level, Sarah. That was basically the high intraday yesterday and today. If you close above that, we probably extend this sell-off, pushing yields higher. Back to you, Sarah.
We'll watch that 435. Thank you, Rick Santelli, very much from Chicago. You know, as far as inflation and jobs, these are really some of the core debates right now in the markets. Do we have
okay, so the number wasn't horrible. 49.8 versus 48.6. Market selling off a little bit here. Obviously, the expectations were pretty bad, but like it's not the worst consumer reading. The inflation print as well. Street wanted 3.2, came in at 3.5, so a little bit higher than expected, but not sure if the market's gonna completely hate that throughout the day.
problems on either front? And, you know, there's renewed questions about it. We got some new job reduction news, for instance. After the bell yesterday, Nike announced, you know, it's going to be laying off 1,400 of its staff. It's less than 2% of the global workforce. Meta confirmed the 10% job cuts of its workers, 8,000 of them. Microsoft is giving voluntary buyouts. I mean, this all feeds the question, one, is AI coming for the jobs? And two, you know, is there some sort of cyclical downturn that companies are preparing for? And I thought this chart from Wolf Research was really notable on that front because they say it's neither. It's just kind of a normalization. What they're looking at here is select tech companies' growth in terms of employees over the last few years. And what they're showing is that some of the recent layoff announcements could just be a renormalization of companies and headcounts really that started to grow coming out of COVID, right? Where the job market was tight and everybody just increased capacity and there was just so much pent up demand and momentum. And then things are maybe coming back down to earth a little bit. They're looking at companies like Apple and Netflix and ServiceNow and Tesla, and they don't see this as sort of like a harbinger of bad news necessarily. It's more just right sizing the business. And I can tell you, David and Mike, from some of my reporting around Nike, for instance, which is one of the latest job cuts. I mean, this definitely is part of their whole turnaround plan under Elliott Hill. It's been sequential. Their job cuts are
Nike's still down on the day. We got a pretty big piece of news by ABC. Don't know if this is accurate yet. DOJ expected to drop the criminal probe on Powell. I mean, that's going to clear up room for none other than Mr. Kevin Warsh to become the Fed chair. Again, Trump instructed the DOJ to prosecute Powell, or at least investigate him and potentially prosecute him in January based on the $2 billion renovation building. Trump was asked if he wants the DOJ probe to end, and he basically said no, like we should keep investigating him. But if a current Fed chair is under investigation, the new Fed chair can't get in. So I think Trump would rather want Kevin Warsh to get in than to have the DOJ go through this like probably multi-month long investigation. Which basically, I mean, when you read between the lines, it's almost like Trump asked the DOJ to do this for the sake of doing it, knowing that it wouldn't be done in 4 months, but it would create a lot of pressure on Jay Powell. And then at the last minute, he's getting rid of the investigation because, you know, he wants his guy to get in. But he got the 4 months of scrutiny put on Powell. I mean, it seems like that was kind of the plan on even why he did this in the first place. Amazon right there, 258. Intel, 82. Intel, 82, as that's green. Micron, 497. TSM, 398. SMH, still 500, still holding on. IGV is slightly up today, but most of the software stocks are getting hit pretty bad. They're not really Did not really get in any of the love right here. Snowflake, the worst. Datadogs. I didn't know Nike was doing layoffs. I missed that yesterday. So Nike cutting another 1,400 people. That's Nike, Oracle, Intel, Amazon, and Meta that I think have been the most, and UPS that have been the most high profile. AMD not slowing down, folks. 340s. We're holding it. We are holding it on AMD. Why do you think EVs are just hype? Well, EVs weren't hype back in 2019 when like everyone wanted an EV. I think the environmental narrative around EVs is down the drain. No one really cares that much about saving the environment. I mean, Elon barely talks about it when he used to talk about it a lot back in 2015 to 2020. And then two is just, with Trump getting elected and the EV tax credit going away, I don't know. I just don't think the sentiment around having an electric vehicle is that exciting anymore. Now, having an autonomous vehicle is very exciting, and usually an autonomous vehicle is an electric vehicle. Tesla right there going red, 373. But we're seeing it in the delivery numbers. Like, the delivery numbers for Tesla are not good, There's just not that much hype. Same thing with Rivian. Rivian can barely sell 40,000 cars a year, and they're not doing it profitably. Oh, thank you for that news. I forgot to talk about this yesterday. Microsoft, for the first time in 50 years, is offering their employees a 7%, or is offering 7% of their employees a buyout. That is crazy, bro. Like, it's almost like it's a politically correct way of firing them without firing them and offering for them to voluntarily quit by them just giving them money, almost like call it a better version of a severance package. Maybe to not take the heat on firing them, because Microsoft's a really big company and that would be a big decision to make, or maybe because they just feel some of these employees aren't worth keeping, and if we could buy them out instead of having them and shift that demand to compute. It's a super bullish semis, but it's not bullish labor market, which is very interesting that they're doing that. It's the older employees to retire. But it still begs the question, right? Like, if you're close to retirement and you're not retiring, maybe you have a couple of years left, maybe Microsoft's just like, hey, you don't need to be here for another 3 years. We can kind of buy you out early so you can retire. Which means that, they probably want to do something with that money instead. I would imagine they're giving them a discount. Like, so what is a buyout for an employee? Is it 3 years of salary? Or is it a discount to the 3 years? I would imagine it has to be a discount. Otherwise, Microsoft's not really getting a deal here. If you're actually going to be buying out these people, or 2 years of salary, 5 years of salary, whatever it is. Sandus, are we going for 1,000? 987. It's close. Micron hit 500. Schwab did something like that in the UK many years ago. Salary plus vesting of your stocks. Yeah, I've never seen a tech company like that do that in the States. Mid claims he's a fan of Elon, but every opportunity he gets, he attacks his companies. I just fundamentally disagree. Saying the Tesla earnings weren't good is not an attack on the company. Like, if you believe that, that's a very intellectually mediocre way of thinking about analysis around companies. Like, saying the earnings weren't good is not an attack on the company. That's like, I'm sorry, but I bought the Tesla dip in my retirement account at 345 in that March sell-off. Like, you can still say, hey, the earnings weren't that good, which they weren't. They faked their free cash flow. Like, they literally faked positive free cash flow by not paying their bills on time so that they could show that they were positive free cash, and then they guided for negative free cash flow. Otherwise, they would have been negative. It's not, negative free cash flow is not a horrible thing if you're spending more on CapEx to get there, but the fact that they artificially created positive free cash flow, it's like, look, they're playing around on earnings. It is what it is. So I wouldn't say that's, going after Elon here. Honest is breaking out. HNST, a little bit of a move, 4.2%, $400 million company. Tanzim news agency in Iran, no talks to take place between Iran and the U.S. during the foreign minister's trip. U.S. representative to the United Nations, the Iranian regime is growing more desperate as it faces a shortage in storage capacity and may soon resort to shutting down oil wells. That's the part we're not talking about either. We're not talking about the fact that the storage on Karg Island, which is their main export for crude oil, is not... They don't, I mean, there's only so much land in which they can store the oil. And remember, the reason they have the shortage problem is because of the Navy blockade. So even if a ship gets through the Strait of Hormuz, if it can't get through the United States blockade, then, I mean, it's stuck in the middle of the sea. And at that point, like, it's not a good situation. So the blockade from that perspective is doing what it was intended to do. Amcor still up 4 right there. SoFi slightly flipping green. But yeah, I would imagine the Iranians need to do something with that oil. And I don't know if they can just get it to the Chinese through like a separate route as easily. Sandis, did we hit 1,000? Is it there? 997. It's going for it. It is going for it from $30 to 1,000 in a year. They IPO'd at 30 freaking dollars to 1,000. And look, this is a better return than most venture startups in a year. Yeah, okay, but be honest though, who would have held? If you bought at 30, would you have held till what? Because there's no way in hell I would have held this thing to $1,000. There's just no way. That's the way to hedge back against your FOMO. Just remind yourself and be honest. Would you have actually held that stock? Because if you wouldn't, there's no need to have FOMO because you would have been out. And you would have made some money, but you would have not been on this like 30x journey. There it is, $1,000. $1,000 for Mr. Sand Disk. There it is. This one's had some pretty ugly dips in between too. But you know, the biggest sign on SanDisk once again was when they did a private offering at $530 and they were 4x oversubscribed. It was like not really dilution. It was more like secondary shares, but it was like functionally dilution to an extent. And SanDisk put out this press release and they were like, yeah, we have more than enough demand for these shares. So we're not really that worried about what shareholders will think. And well, shareholders now up a double if you even bought it at 500. So that is pretty freaking incredible. AMD 346, SanDisk 1,000. Their PE multiple at 24 is still reasonable. It's not even that crazy. Micron still just below 500. Mamba says I bought SanDisk at 190, pulled principals and profits at 600. Now I have risk-free shares running. It's still a 4% position. Congrats, man. You're playing with house's money here, and it's just running up at this point. You don't even have to worry if it were to go to zero now. SanDisk, $1,000 on the day. AMD still flirting with 350. She's flirting. She's being flirtatious here. But we got to see. We've got to see. Trump bought a 10% stake in Intel at $20.47, $8.9 billion in August 2025. Nvidia, 27 days later, bought $5 billion of Intel. So Trump is now up to a $33 billion stake. And Jensen has a $20 billion stake. $55 billion of wealth for Jensen, for Nvidia. And by the way, we all technically own Intel. If you're in the United States and you pay your taxes, you technically, I mean, it's not like we missed Intel. We're all on the ride. It's just the gains are stuck at the White House on the balance sheet. AMD, she's going for it. We will do the bell at 350 for Mr. AMD. And I think that bell is cumulative of all the different names that have just gone crazy today. Let's see. Can she give us 350 resistance? Let me check again. I think it's 150,000 shares. 117,000. 117,000. Dude, that is crazy. AMD was 195. When was it 195? 192 on March 30th. It was 212 on April 7th. Last week, April 20th, it was 277. Absolutely crazy. Absolutely wild. Amit only does the bell for his own holdings. First of all, I do not own enough AMD where I would be ringing the bell because I'm super excited that it's at 350. Second of all, a majority of you guys own AMD, like a lot. They would say like 60% of the chat. That's why we're doing the bell 350. Third of all, if every single stock a portion of the chat owned made a new high and I rang the bell, people would get freaking annoyed. So no, we can't ring the bell every time some part of the chat owns a stock. At that point, we're ringing the bell every single day in a bull market, multiple times a day. And if you guys already can't handle the bell at 8:30, you guys are acting like it's disrespectful to not ring the bell when your stock gets up. It's actually the most respectful because I'm respecting the 90% of other people that don't own it and quite frankly don't want to hear a bell just because one of these stocks got to a higher level that the majority of the chat doesn't own. So I'm not trying to be stingy with the bell, but I also understand that you guys are going to be more annoyed than not if I ring it every other freaking slide. And if I keep doing that, then it sets the precedent that, oh, this stock is up. This random $300 million company just hit $10. You have to ring the bell. It's like, I can't do that. I can't freaking do that. But I know AMD is the majority, or it is a very, I would say it's like a top 10 holding for this chat. I would put AMD up there. SanDisk is not. I'm sorry. Micron is not. I'm sorry. So that is how we think of the bell. Now let's get to 350 though, so we can ring this and everyone can at least be happy for all these other stocks. Intel, like what? Do we ring the bell for Intel at 80? How many people here own Intel? Less than 1%? We got to ring the bell for 80 at Intel? Like, come on. We can't, like some of the stuff like Amcor. I know a lot of us own Amcor, but it's not the majority of us. We can't ring the bell for Amcor at 70. Like people are just gonna be annoyed at that point. Now SoFi hits 25. Yeah, that's a bell ring. A lot of people on SoFi. Bitcoin hits 80. That would be nice. We got to get there. Bitcoin 77. Bitcoin 77. Caitlin, our girl Caitlin tweeted, again, these will be bilateral talks. No U.S. appearance expected this time. Iranian officials will only be in Islamabad for a few hours. Caitlin's not giving us good news, man. By the way, you know Caitlin's following increased like crazy ever since she had that news tweet. She went from like 24,000 to 35,000 followers. Even though she walked back her news, even though technically it was real, it wasn't fake. Just got to give us good news here. U.S. Attorney Gene Pinheiro, this morning, the Inspector General for the Federal Reserve has been asked to scrutinize the building cost overruns and the billions of dollars that have been borne by taxpayers. The IG has the authority to hold the Federal Reserve accountable for American taxpayers. I expect a comprehensive report in short order, and I'm confident the outcome will assist in resolving. Accordingly, I have directed my office to close our investigation. Wow. Note well, however, that I will not hesitate to restart a criminal investigation should the facts warrant doing so. J-Pow has escaped jail time, folks. They are not investigating him. They are not investigating him. He gets to retire without being under criminal investigation. And then Kevin Warsh gets in. Tess, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. See, again, I know I can ring the bell on some of these names, but I know a lot of you are also going to just be annoyed at the bell. So no, now I'm not going to be pressured into ringing the bell just because a few people want it. I'm sorry. The vast majority of you don't like it. You tell me at meetups in my face, Amit, I love you. I love your analysis. It really is important for me. I'm here every single day. I hate the fucking bell. And now you guys want me to ring it every freaking 2 minutes. Like, The AMD shareholders must be so happy though. They're like, Amit's only rigging it for us. Micron, SanDisk, we don't care about you, but AMD, Lisa Su, she's getting all the love here. All the love. You know, someone had a good idea the other day. This might be a compromise. The little bell. What if I ring the little bell for some of these moments? No, but see, then the Micron and SanDisk people are going to be disrespected. Like, oh, I only get a little bell? Like, I just hit $1,000 and I only get a little bell? So I don't even think that's going to solve it. I think it just has to be for the really big moments. I think that's how we got to do it. Yeah, it's the Tinkerbell. We need to start Bell maxing. What about Taco Bell? I haven't had Taco Bell in so long, dude. Taco Bell it's good, but it's like it's not been, I don't know. There would be a lot of things I eat before Taco Bell. Nvidia 202, she hasn't given it away. Barron's just put out a short squeeze note on another stock, and that stock is TTD, up 4%. How shorted is this thing? Barron's saying TTD could be the next stock face. It's almost like these firms are trying to find the next Newsmax every day. TTD is shorted 15%. That's enough for a squeeze, but it's not egregious like some of the other companies that are out there. I don't know. TTD. X Energy shares indicated to open at $35 each. IPO price at $23. Okay, so there is an IPO happening today for X Energy. I think Robinhood gives access to it. X Energy. I don't know what the ticker of this is. Where's the IPO? Cactus, if you have the ticker, let me know, because I think I saw a notification for it, but that is a company that will be going public probably at 1 p.m. today. At 1 p.m., we're going to see. Amit, I've covered calls AMD 280, August 2026. Does it make sense to roll? Yeah. And the reason is not just because the price is higher and you're in the money, but Intel signaled that AMD is probably going to crush CPU demand. And if they do and AMD goes up, like AMD is not just up because of euphoria, in my opinion. Is there some euphoric buying? Of course, but it's up because the street is now expecting Intel to be the precedent for what AMD is going to report. So I think you got to get rid of those covered calls. But you know, you're not that far away. I mean, you could roll out to 2028. Obviously, you're gonna have to hold the shares for a couple of years, but you can get much higher than 280 on the strike price. Now, if AMD tanks on earnings, it is what it is. But the question is, do you want to risk it with AMD? XE is the ticker symbol. XE, X Energy. That will be going live today. $35 is the expected price. IPO price is at 23. 23. Again, the big breaking news right here, the DOJ closing the investigation, and Jay Powell will be able to retire with room for Kevin Warsh to come in.
Columbia posting on social media just a couple of minutes ago. She says this morning the Inspector General for the Federal Reserve has been asked to scrutinize the building cost overruns in the billions of dollars that have been borne by taxpayers. The IG has the authority to hold the Federal Reserve accountable to American taxpayers. I expect a comprehensive report in short order, and I'm confident the outcome will assist in resolving once and for all the questions that led this office to issue subpoenas. Accordingly, I've directed my office to close our investigation as the IG undertakes this inquiry. Note well, however, that I will not hesitate to restart a criminal investigation should the facts warrant doing so. So that, Sarah, would appear to clear the decks for Tom Tillis, the senator on Capitol Hill, who has said that he will not vote to authorize, to move forward the Kevin Warsh nomination to be chairman of the Federal Reserve until the DOJ had dropped that investigation of Powell, which he viewed as improper and politically motivated. Now that that investigation is being dropped, the question will be to Capitol Hill, is that enough for Tillis? The idea of the Inspector General inside the Federal Reserve conducting an investigation rather than the Department of Justice. This is one of a number of proposals that have been kicking around all week. One of the ideas that had been floated earlier was the idea of having a congressional committee conduct an investigation, and that would give the Department of Justice license to drop this investigation. That didn't happen. Now we're seeing this Inspector General route happen. And of course, the Inspector General, guys, could have investigated any of this all along, right? I mean, they exist to investigate wrongdoing in their agency, in this case, at the Federal Reserve. So they could have been conducting all kinds of investigations for years now, and presumably they have been conducting oversight of this construction project. So, is that a fig leaf? Is that a real investigation? We'll press for some more detail. But in any case, Jeanine Pirro now announcing she's dropping this investigation. Big question for the White House will be, what role did the president play in that decision, guys? Back over to you.
All right, Eamon, it's great news for Fed Chair Powell. It's good news for Kevin Warsh, presumably, if
That's
now
right.
he gets the green light to get confirmed by the Senate. Eamon, we'll look
Yeah,
to you
we
if you get.
just have to wait for Tillis to give the say so, but that would appear to
We're
be
reaching
the
out.
next step. Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll let everybody know if we hear from him. Eamon, thank you. Keep us posted. And there's some market.
All right, that's what we got on the investigation. The software stocks, unfortunately, going red. Oklo as well. Wow, Oklo, 80 to 73. As that's down. That continues to be pretty ugly. Software losing it, folks. IGV is probably red. IGV, look at that. Officially red on the day. 83.40. Palantir losing 140. I mean, at this point, every software is Microsoft going red. Microsoft very close to going red. ServiceNow, is that below 85? Just above it. Touched 88 for a second. Right back down. I have 320 covered calls, Jan 2027. Looking at the screen, as scary as it shows losses, should I roll now or just sit tight? So remember, when you have losses on covered calls, they're not actual losses. Your brokerage is calculating the opportunity cost or the difference between the current price and the price you sold your call at, and that becomes loss because you're not eligible to be able to receive those gains, obviously, because you've basically shorted the stock at 320 and the stock's at 350. So don't get too scared about the negative on the screen. It's not necessarily you're losing money. In fact, you're going to be making money when AMD gets sold. But there's a lot of extrinsic value because you have a lot of time till January 2027, which as that decays, those losses will go down. But I mean, look, 320 is a different question than 280. I mean, if you think AMD is going to take a pullback, it's probably going to take a pullback around that 300, 315 range. If it's going to 360 on earnings, if Lisa Su just demolishes it, then maybe you roll here. That is in the middle, right? So it's a little bit of a tricky scenario. It's not an easy or obvious roll or not roll, because now you have to really bet on if Lisa Su is going to crush it. And that I'm not sure. Man, software is still getting dumped. Look at that. AppLovin down 4, Reddit down 2, Broadcom down 2, Marvell down 2, ASTS getting nuked down 2, Micron at least holding, SMH still holding. Do you own ServiceNow? I do not. I think Chris gave a compelling pitch last night on the market close for why it's a buy. I personally am not buying it, but I get his argument. I don't think it should be trading here. I just don't know if this is still going to outperform even the broader semiconductor names. Palantir, unfortunately, losing 140, which is annoying. Oracle as well, losing it, which is annoying. Why SAS dropping? There's no headline. At least I don't see any headline. It was dropping for the past 2 days, though, so maybe it's a Friday continuation of more declines. Wow, is this true? NIO, the car company, is doubling down on in-house chip development to boost margins and gain tighter control over its AI stack. Huh. I wonder if NIO potentially is a chip play. I mean, they're primarily doing it for their EVs, but I wonder if they would start selling it to other people. NIO has also been stuck at like $5-6 for a long time. I can also make chips at home as well. Yeah, I've also made my own chips. With cheese and guacamole, not horrible chips. Not horrible. This is so annoying, dude. So annoying to see software get hit. What do you do? What do you freaking do? SanDisk losing 1,000. AMD not giving us 350, but it's also not losing 340s. So you can't be Can't be too upset. DeepSeek unveils new AI model adapter for Huawei chips. Yeah, but that's not a software reason for a sell-off. We saw the DeepSeek. I mean, I don't think we covered it this morning, but I saw it late last night. That's not a reason for software to sell off. I don't think that's a reason for software to sell off. Car halted again. Is it? Car. Wow, 218, down 4%. Halted. Amit, I'm frustrated with SoFi. I just closed all of it. Look, I get it. I will say I think earnings are going to be good, but even if earnings are good, I wonder if the street's going to just let SoFi run. Or is this private credit bank narrative, which doesn't even feel like it's a narrative across the other banks anymore, is that going to be enough to take this one down? But I get it. Like, it's probably very, very annoying to see that price action. Zeta is almost below 17. Amazon at least holding almost 260. Just below it right now. People are so impatient. Look, yes, but it's also like if you've been holding SoFi since the start of the year and that's the hard part about controlling your emotions, right? A lot of these names that have been running like crazy, Micron, SanDisk, Nebius, CoreWeave, now ARM, Amcor, right? If you're just not in those names, Intel, AMD, if you're not in them and you're in some bank that's putting up great numbers that probably should get a premium, but is not moving, like it's annoying. Like, and unfortunately the capitulation comes usually when it's about a pump, but if it doesn't pump, imagine SoFi is at 15 on her, imagine it goes down. Like it's just going to suck. It's just nothing has been in favor besides the semis this year. At least you don't own PayPal. Well, at least PayPal, are we still above 50? No, we lost 50. We were above 50, but. So White House Secretary Carolyn Leavitt is expected to have her second child next week. She's going to be on paternity leave. Vance and Trump, as per Politico, are expected to run the press briefing every day. That's going to be comedy. Every day, Vance and Trump are going to run this game. We get a press meeting from Trump every day about that's going to be crazy. Now, Politico's saying that. I don't know if that's true, but they're saying Vance and Trump are expected to handle press briefings. Content in chief a day. Oh, I said paternity. I meant to say maternity leave. That's going to be wild. SMH still at 500. Again, we will have Real Blonde Broker. I'll put her X account right here. She's big into harmonics and TA. She'll be on for about 20 minutes. And a lot of people have been asking for her to come on the show again. It's been a couple months. We'll do some TA with her. It's not going to be very long, not Technical Tuesday. We're not going to take a bunch of requests, but we'll do like 5-7 names. And we'll start off with AMD, of course, and see what she thinks there. Nvidia getting a move up a little bit, 203. We haven't seen 204 in a while on Nvidia. It would be nice to see if we can get there. Everything else just getting destroyed. Oracle, Rocket Lab, Meta barely on. Yeah, we'll ask her to do SoFi as well. We'll do the main ones that people care about. Let me check 204 resistance. Maybe Nvidia finally catching up to the party with AMD. 204 has 145,000 shares. 145,000 shares. Micron at 500. Air Test Systems, 96.40. Poet is pumping. I don't think there's a headline on Poet, but you are getting a pump. Told you guys, the South Koreans. That was my due diligence last week. The South Koreans love this name. And they stick together, those South Koreans. There you go. 7 to 14 in a week on Poet, or about 2 weeks. Nvidia, are we going to see 204? Are we going to see it? I see 203.99. It's kind of weird. The entire market dumping, but Nvidia finally catching up with AMD today. It feels a little sus, to be honest, but we'll take it. We're not ringing the bell for 204. We're not doing that. Like, we've been here before, 7 months ago, but still, Nvidia was at 212. Nebia's dumping. Whoa. Below 150. We haven't seen all week. See, this is what I'm saying. It's weird. Why is Nebia's dumping, but Nvidia's pumping? Like that, they usually move with each other. That's a little weird. How do you check total stocks and resistance on Robinhood? If you pay for gold, they let you see it, but there's other websites that show you the order. It's called order book volume. It's not the most accurate, but it's like somewhat of a glimpse of how many shares really need to be bought at a certain level. And there we go, Nvidia 204. It's just a weird 204 because a lot of the other semi names like a Broadcom, a Nebius are getting hit. CoreWeave down 3. All the neoclouds, that's hurting Oracle pretty badly as well. So why is Nvidia catching? Like, I'm happy for it, but I don't get why. I don't know, man. Kind of feels more manipulative with some of these stocks going up, some of them going down here. Is AMD close to 350? AMD 344. Okay. Nvidia following Intel and AMD today. And it looks like Nvidia is not stopping. 204.50. Intel also still holding 22%. There you go. There is no headline on Poet. There's no headline on Poet. Nothing that I saw. Maybe more demand for Marvell and chip architecture. And Poet's a supplier there. But Poet also could just be getting squeezed here. It's short 20%. So that could be your short squeeze happening right now. Tesla 374. Yeah, this is very weird. I'm not seeing... You have the J-POW headline not getting investigated. You have the Pakistanis saying the Iranian delegation is coming, but they're not coming to negotiate. And then you have neoclouds dumping, Nvidia pumping, ASICs dumping. This is a very weird Friday. A very weird Friday. Nvidia close to 205. Let me check 205 resistance. 205 resistance is 412,000 shares. I mean, if we bust through that, then 1 cent away. We are 1 penny away. 204. I saw 204.99. That's a lot of shares, but still. This is weird. This is weird. I don't know why Nebius is down. At least got a little recovery back above 150, but CoreWeave's also down. Where's Iran? Did Iran get hit? Iran down 1.3. Iran down 1.3. Nvidia 205. There it is. This is just okay. I mean, I'm not complaining about it. Just it's you would think the whole market would be pumping with it, and it's not, which is fine. But Nvidia is kind of the market. So just a little weird how it's doing it. But there you go, 205 Nvidia. I guess the AMD people are not the only ones having fun today, along with Intel. Nvidia gets to join the party. 205 right there. Wow. As that one's not slowing down. 205.20, dude, she's going. 205.30. Did the market just wake up and decide that Nvidia matters now after Intel and AMD? Like, oh yeah, this Nvidia thing, kind of important. Yeah, I don't get why SAS is down either. There's not really a reason for why SAS should be getting hit this hard. At least I don't see the reason. Micron 503, Microsoft 418, Trade Desk 2346. I'm not ringing the bell for 205. No, that's not a bell ring. Like, we get to all-time highs on Nvidia, 212, that's your bell ring. I'm sorry, I'm just not like, we've seen these levels before, guys. These are not brand new levels. It's been a while, but this is not your bell ring. And if I ring the bell for Nvidia here, I already know the comments that I'm going to get for not ringing the bell for the other people. So no, we're going to hold Nvidia to a high threshold as well. It is what it is. White House is optimistic that the Senate will quickly approve Warsh. Yeah, I mean, now he's guaranteed to get in. Guaranteed to get in. Huh. Interesting. Okay, so I guess AMD, Nvidia, and Intel, we all get to enjoy a pump today. I mean, look, 2.8% on Nvidia is not huge, but considering we're finally breaking out above 200 in somewhat of a meaningful way, $5 is 150 billion in market cap above 4.75 trillion. Like it's not easy for Nvidia to do, and the fact that it's happening is very nice. AMD still holding 344, Intel still holding 81. Everything else though getting wrecked. Where's Tesla? Is that holding anything? Tesla a little bit above 375. Nvidia is not exactly 4.5 trillion yet. Nvidia is just hit it. 205.80. That was the number. 205.80 at 5 trillion. At 205.50 was 4.99. Okay, are we going to see 206? 206 is 68,000 shares. Street woke up. There you go. 206. I guess it's an Nvidia, AMD, Intel day. I'm trying to see if there's any other headlines that are more conducive to this. Obviously, Intel is very important for CPU, or Nvidia is important for CPUs as well. So maybe that's just like Qualcomm had a delayed reaction. Maybe you're seeing that with Nvidia. 144 Qualcomm, that's still holding 7%. Intel 22.2 is Palantir still below 140. Palantir just above 140 right there. Just above 140. Nvidia is going. Nvidia is going here. Nicely going as well. Look at that. Not really stopping here. Yeah, Max Linear up 72%. We talked about that. That's more of a small cap, but they put up some pretty freaking good numbers. And that's getting them some love. 5.01 trillion. There it is. Semiconductor bulls. I mean, again, it didn't really make much sense for Intel and AMD themselves to be going crazy with Nvidia not getting any love. Nvidia doesn't have to go up 15% like AMD, but still, some love would be nice. There's some love. 206.54. 4%. We haven't had a 4% Nvidia day in a minute. It's been a minute since we had that. And it looks like we're getting it right there. Why is Honest pumping? Not sure. Not seeing. Didn't see the headline for Honest. 4% is huge for Nvidia. That is correct. Why wouldn't this AMD move get sold off? Well, I think the expectation is Lisa Su probably should be able to deliver, if Intel was any indication, the best earnings in the history of AMD. If the CPU shortage is that real. Remember, AMD is one of Intel's biggest competitors when it comes to CPUs. Now, Intel still has a decent chunk of the market, but if AMD, if the market, the TAM itself just gets that much bigger, I think that's why the street's front running it here. Like, I know conventional wisdom says this should sell off because it's too much, too quick. But if it's because of an S-curve moment, that it's going higher, or at least staying afloat. ARM, look at that, 230 on ARM, 12% on ARM. My goodness here. Nvidia 207. Dude, no, I'm not ringing the bell because if I ring the bell and we dump, everyone's going to get upset. So now we are literally waiting until all-time highs. Because if I ring the freaking bell at 207 and we go back to 204, I will get letters in the mail that will not be pretty. So now you should be happy I'm not ringing the bell here. Now we're going to wait till all-time highs to see that freaking bell. Now I'm not taking the risk. Now I'm not even doing it. I rang the bell for Nvidia at 304, or for AMD at 304, and now we're at 340. So, the bell worked there. But the risk reward right here on ringing the bell and us dumping is my head. I need to be alive to do the market open. SMCI 10% as well. This is pretty unprecedented by Nvidia, though. It feels a little shady how it's happening. I like it. It is a little weird. I mean, it's not that weird, though, because of Intel and AMD, but the rest of the market kind of flat here. I would imagine the rest of the market, Iran still red, Nebia still red, should reverse if Nvidia is doing this type of a move. Now it's going to dump because of the lack of bell. Dude, if I ring that freaking bell and this thing dumps, I know you guys. You guys have freaking groupthink when it comes to this shit. I'm literally not going to be able to sleep at night if that's what happens. SanDisk at 990. 990. Well, this is nice, though. It's not, AMD and Intel is great, but it's nice for Nvidia to join the party. Like, it kind of did suck. You can make every excuse you want to make for Nvidia being stuck at 200 while the rest of them were pumping, but it is nice to see the market bring them up all together. Bring them up all together. Amazon still under 260. Still under 260. Let's get a little bit more coverage on investigation. And it looks like Kevin Warsh here is primed to be the new Fed chair.
As dovish as normal. And so it seems like on the committee, it might be Bowman and Myron, if he stays, and it's unclear whether there'll be a position open for him at this point, that are on board with Fed cuts at this point.
I think that's a smart take, is reasonable. Yeah. I'm not sure who that was for. Okay, sorry.
It was just me talking, but go ahead,
I was going to say, Sarah, I think that's a smart take, but the take has to the way to figure it has to be this impulse from the oil price shock when it starts to work its way through. If you heard Warsh talk, what was important to me, one of the things that was important to me from the hearing was this idea that when he looks at underlying inflation, some of those median and trimmed indicators that are out there show pretty decent movements or at least stability in the underlying inflation rate. And that's really what's going to be the story, I think. If they can keep underlying inflation under control, headed back to 2%, I think the market may be underestimating the extent to which Warsh and with the Fed committee will have the ability to cut rates.
Yeah, and David, I want to hear from you as well, but it also reminds me of something David Einhorn told me. This was a few months ago when he was betting that the market was underpricing Fed cuts this year, which is that we don't really see a committee disagreeing with a Fed chair. I mean, have we? We haven't really seen a committee voting against a Fed chair.
No, but this is probably, if there's going to be one, it's going to be now, right? The contention is high, and Kevin's a still historically somewhat divisive character from his history with the Fed leaving in 2012. He had a lot of negative things to say over the years, so I think he'll have to climb that uphill battle. But just going back to your question about Waller and the ability to get the committee around the table to vote on a sort of smaller balance sheet, lower rate idea, or even just a lower rate idea because of inflation and at the core level looking better. I think you still have to get the question of whether Jay's leaving or not resolved. That's the biggest question. And I think a statement by Jay saying he'll be leaving at the end of his term as chair will actually cause the market to go up, the rate market to be more positive, meaning lower yields, higher prices. That'll be a more significant impact than this lawsuit being dropped. That's my contention. That'll really open up the kind of majority board story. And I do think there will be a lot of power that comes with Kevin's job. He can change way a lot of things work around the table, and that's a powerful way to get your message more as a consensus message. Even if he did say in his hearings, which I thought was helpful, that he wanted it to be kind of a Family Feud style.
Right. If Kevin Warsh is getting in, folks, then we're going up. We're going up and up and up. I mean, if there's not going to be that much hesitation, the Fed, yes, they will be questioned, or the market will question the Fed on it. But if he is pretty strong in his idea around interest rates, Poet still up 27%, then the hesitation on who's going to be the next Fed chair, which already created uncertainty, that's not going to be there. Nvidia still holding 207. AMD 343. 343. So the semi still holding, software kind of still down. Wow, Nebius 5% down right here. Maybe they're diluting a little bit. Nebius, they have an ATM that's available. They haven't really used much of it, to the best of our knowledge. I ran at 51. That's still up from the 40s of last week, which is nice. The drone stock's dumping, even though Ondas had some good news today. The defense budget, really good for drones. Michael Burry also, so we got some disclosure. Not only did he buy Microsoft, but he bought puts on the QQQ for January and March 2027, and then puts on SOXX, which is the semiconductor ETF, for January 2027, and he has more Nvidia Jan 2027 puts. So he bought Microsoft, puts on Nvidia, puts on the QQQ, and puts on SOXX is what you have for Mr. Michael Burry. Nvidia still holding on to $207 here. It's kind of weird, right? Like, Microsoft is a big part of the Qs, and Microsoft spends a lot of money on the chip names, which is really good for the semis. So now functionally, if it's a hedge, then it doesn't matter because you're expecting the hedge to go to zero. So your longs go up a lot and you're willing to live with the delta in between. But like, how can you be long Microsoft and be bearish Nvidia, the semis, and the Q? Like, it's just such a weird hedge. Like, yeah, I want to bet on this amazing AI cloud computing software company, but I want to hedge against the index that it's part of, which, don't you think it would go down with the index, which means your long position would go down anyway? Like, it's just a little, and then at the same time, Microsoft's paying God knows how many tens of billions to Nvidia, and then you have Nvidia puts. Like, and the Nvidia puts were never a hedge. The Nvidia puts, I mean, this thing that he introduced today, the QQQ and SOXX puts, those might be a hedge. The Nvidia puts were, hey, Nvidia's going down. It was more of a short than a hedge because there was nothing to hedge. But I don't know. I guess he's semi-bullish, semi-bearish. Tesla right there at 376. I think Burry's betting on midterms being a reason to hedge. I wonder what the sizing of this is, because the Microsoft position has to be substantial for him to want to have a hedge. And the hedge has to really pay off if Microsoft ends up, because Microsoft's going to go down with the whole market if we're actually going down. Nvidia, 207.45. Let me check 208 resistance here. Let me check 208. 208 resistance is 82,000 shares. It's actually a lot easier for it to get to 208 than 207. Palantir, a little recovery back above 140. Amazon 249. There's 259. Mate, do you think Poet is sustainable? I have no idea. There's no news on that other than they're working with Marvell theoretically. But this thing, again, we talked about it 2 weeks ago. This is the only photonics play that hasn't made a move. And that's why I think it's squeezing and making a move. Is it sustainable? I don't know. I have no clue. But even if it goes back down to 11, I mean, if you bought it a while ago, you're not going to care too much, right? Now, if you're buying it here, you're going to be annoyed if it goes to 11. The weird thing about POT is the CEO owns 7,000 shares. And, you know, they've been in a bunch of controversies. They paid YouTubers before to pump the stock. Like, there's a lot of weird stuff around it. But the fundamental photonics technology is actually very strong, and it hasn't moved with the other names that have moved. So I think that's why it's catching the bid that it's getting. Wow, Nvidia, 208. 208. Intel, AMD, and Nvidia. I don't think Nvidia's had a day like this in a very long time. When's the last time Nvidia, it's up 175 billion in market cap? Has not happened in a while. Like the move to 160 to 200 happened every couple of days. It didn't happen 4% in one day. See, now I've got you guys fighting with each other. Some people saying don't ring the bell. Other people saying ring the bell. This is perfect. This is great. You guys can resolve this now. I'm done. I'm done worrying about it. You guys have to figure out if the bell is worth ringing here. It's not in my hands anymore. I said all-time highs. It's worth the bell ring. And now you guys debate it out. Do a poll. Okay, I'll do a poll. And whoever freaking wins, you guys live with the price action. You guys live with the price action. No one can come after me if it's you guys. 59% of you said you would not buy AMD here. Okay, but there's no news. There's like zero, like, there's nothing outside of the Intel earnings, which I guess was enough, but there's not anything super fundamental that we're seeing here. Nothing super, super crazy. Do the roar. What is this Nvidia sell-off? I have no idea. I have no idea. My guess is Big Tech raises CapEx guidance. If they do that going into Q2, that would be, yeah, Nvidia's going up. I mean, like, Nvidia has to go up if they do that. So does AMD. So does right. Maybe that's why the semis are getting this much of a bid, that the streets figured out Big Tech is only going to raise CapEx into Q2. Which, if they do, I mean, can you even be that upset? Like, it would be an obvious reason for them to do that. Like, based on what we know in regards for how much demand is out there. 208.60. I'm trying to get 209 resistance. We just broke through 208. 209 is 30 cents away. 209 is 84,000. 84,000. TSM did cross 400 today. It's just a little weird because the whole market's not pumping. So it's a very stock picker oriented market today, which is fine. But usually when Nvidia pumps, everything pumps. So this is a bit weird that this one's going and everything other than memory, AMD, and Intel is not going. And then you would think the neoclouds would be pumping too, but software is definitely not pumping. But it is what it is. We're getting it. We are getting it. What did you guys do? 57% say yes. I am a man of the people. I am a man of the people here. So if I do it, then we got to live with the results, okay? We got to live with the results. All right, here we go. This is for Nvidia. This is for Poet. This is for Amazon. This is for SanDisk. This is for Micron. This is for AMD, baby. All-time highs. And it's pretty incredible. There we go. 10 cents from 209. Can we get it? Can we get it? 10 cents from 209. It's only 80,000 shares. It's only 80,000 shares. Can we get it? Or do we stop here? AMD 346, Amazon 259. Palantir trying to get back up. Qualcomm, that's still up 8. And Nvidia, she's trying. If we don't get it, I don't want to hear a single freaking word, because that is on you guys. I'm going to sleep like a baby tonight if we don't get 209. A freaking baby. When I mean baby, I mean I'm going to sleep like a freaking baby. Okay? Because I'm not like, that's not my fault. It's not my fault. It's you guys. You didn't want it. You should have voted. Should have voted. Sorry. It's a democracy. That's why you can't abstain from your voting. Maybe next time, this will stop people from asking for the bell every single second. This experience has taught people stuff. As we are headed back to 209, potentially. If we break to 2010, everyone's going to just want the bell more and more and more. But that's okay. 210 would be better. ServiceNow, 8668. That's up 2.29%. Tesla, 377. Poet breaking through 15. Absolutely smashing through. As that is green. SoFi at 1835. Intel still holding, and TSM still holding as well. Why is Clean Spark pumping today? That's a good question. I don't know. Hut was pumping. Some of the neoclouds were getting a move today. Clean Spark up 5. I don't think they announced a deal, though. I don't see any deal. Oh, boy. Israeli army. We attacked moments ago military buildings belonging to Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. Well, that's not good. That's not good. I wonder if we can hold any of this rally with that came out literally 5 minutes ago. Can the market fade the escalation, or can we keep going up? That could definitely stop the run today. I don't know if it's going to, but that could. I mean, that means the ceasefire is over. Again, the entire condition for the Iranian ceasefire was making sure Lebanon is included in that. I don't know. I don't know if that stops us today. It definitely could stop us. That's the first piece of news today. That's actually kind of ugly. But let's see. Nvidia's trying. Intel 24. Intel's not stopping either. Intel is not stopping either. The bell bombed everybody. Oh my gosh. Yes, there was a 3-week ceasefire announced yesterday. That is correct. But also, we talked about in the morning, there were attacks that went back and forth even with the 3-week ceasefire. So, we just don't know if it's like legit ceasefire or not. Dude, what a day. Intel comes back from the dead after 26 years. This is the best earnings they've had since, I would say, the year 2000, right? I don't even think that can be questioned. Pumps up ARM, pumps up AMD, pumps up Marvell. I guess it's pumping up Nvidia. It's just not pumping up the broader market, but Netanyahu re-retained full freedom of action to counter any threats from Hezbollah. Okay. We'll have to see how much the street believes in that. We'll have to see. The bell will cause World War III. Oh my gosh. Dude, it's a pretty big move today, though. That's a really big move. It is weird the rest of the market's not participating, but it's a very large move today. Like, that's not a joke. 5% on Nvidia. Even Amazon holding 260. SAP still up 5. Figma's down. Figma's in the dumps on this Claude model. Shopify down another 2%. Lunar's down 7. Dude, the space names, the SpaceX IPO, not really doing what we need to do here, unfortunately. SPY's green. We are pretty green on SPY. 0.5% is a good move on SPY. As Nvidia hits 209. 209 for Mr. Nvidia. And she's not stopping there. And she is not stopping there. My goodness. 209.10. Wow. What a freaking day. What a freaking day. AMD, Intel, Nvidia, and most of us are AMD, Nvidia. I mean, this is a hell of a day, dude. Did not expect on a random Friday to see Nvidia get to almost 5.1 trillion and AMD to be almost 600 billion. AMD is also very close to 350. She's making the move again. Yeah, please no one tell me they sold Nvidia at 198 yesterday. Please no one tell me. They saw some random headline about Iran and sold Nvidia at 198 yesterday. Like, this is why, again, Nvidia has been the single #1 stock I've been buying all year. After earnings, 180, 170 is when I wrote a Substack article about it. I titled it Double Down. It should have been Quadruple Down. Like, it was the single most obvious thing in the market. Obviously, AMD has done better. So if you're double down on AMD, congrats. But the safety of their earnings growth matched with the reacceleration plus the CapEx guidance, not saying there's not a bear case, but there definitely wasn't a reason for this thing to be trading at 15 times forward. No, that was stupid. And so Nvidia looks like it's much more appropriately getting the love that it deserves. AMD, let's see. 50 cents here. 50 cents. Yes, we will ring the bell for 350. That one we got to do. That's a big one. There'll be no politics there. We will do it. Let's see if we can get there. Let's see if we can get there. It's 10 cents away. Ray said about 200 more shares at 199. Wow. Look at that, Ray. Got in right before she pumped. Right before the 200 pump. I've been in Nvidia since 65.19. Congratulations. I bought one share of Nvidia at 70 before I even knew what Nvidia was. And obviously I sold it. And then DeepSeek is where it was time to buy more. What happened to Nebius? I have no idea. No idea what happened to Nebius. No idea. 349.08. 349.08. Um, 348.70. She's trying. Trying. Nvidia, does she want 210? Does she actually want 210 right here? Nvidia, wow. I think she actually wants 210. I think she actually wants 210 right here. Dude, the price action today, just unfreaking believable here. Oracle, I think, is down with the Neo Clouds, unfortunately. But it's trying to get a little green candle at 170 to 172. I guess we got to thank Intel, right? Like, what else we can't, there is nothing else I'm seeing other than Intel be the beneficiary for this. Yeah, let's get some updates right here on Intel, as this is the reason for one of the biggest pumps we've had in semis in a while.
As government, I know a lot of people wondering, they bought a 10% stake just last August at $20 a share. So that investment has nearly quadrupled on paper. The question, though, is whether this is a real inflection point for Intel or whether the stock has just gotten ahead of itself. Wall Street seems to be relatively split. Citi upgraded to buy, calling out agentic AI demand and foundry credibility for Intel, but several firms are still maintaining holds. The fundamentals did show up, the biggest revenue beat in 5 years. Server CPU demand so strong that tight supply held back by more than $1 billion in revenue, although management just said the word B. And they've been raising prices with more flowing through next quarter. I spoke to CFO Dave Zisner just yesterday, and he said they're so constrained on servers that they're shifting PC capacity over to meet data center demand. He also called the Elon Musk Terafab partnership a, quote, great endorsement and said there are, quote, many other customers behind Elon, even if no details about the Terafab are finalized just yet. There is, of course, pushback. Stifel warns margin improvement won't be linear as they still try to work through their advanced chip processes. Morgan Stanley says, yes, the music will keep playing, but sees better risk reward in memory and even in AMD. And the foundry is still unprofitable with no mention on this earnings call of new customers. Although management did say their advanced packaging capabilities are going to pick up, especially in the second half of this year into next year. Bottom line, Intel definitely hit every talking point it needed to keep this momentum going. And we see that with the share price up 24%. Whether the business can actually sustain it is the big question, but for the first time in a long time, the fundamentals are giving the narrative something to stand on. Guys?
Absolutely. I'd say something at 24% now at record high. Thank you very much, Christina. OpenAI CFO Sarah Friar coming up on the other side of this break, just releasing the newest model of ChatGPT. We'll talk IPO timeline as well. We have a lot to get to with her when Money Mover.
That is the story. That is the story for Mr. Intel. Is she going for 210? She going for 210. She doing it, folks. Is she doing it? AMD, did we get anywhere closer to what we're looking for? AMD still stuck 348.50, but she's trying. Netanyahu, some quotes. I had an excellent conversation with Trump regarding Iran. Trump is exerting strong economic pressure on Iran. We are working with Trump in full cooperation. We retain complete freedom of action on any threat on Hezbollah. We are determined to restore security to the residents of the North Lebanese border. We attacked Hezbollah yesterday, and we will attack them today. That is officially confirmed by Netanyahu, which is a bit confusing because I thought there was a ceasefire, but he's saying, yes, we did attack them. And again, that's a little confusing because the Iranians, the whole reason we had to wait to get a ceasefire last time was because Hezbollah was not included in the initial ceasefire. Markets not caring. Obviously, markets moving forward. Semiconductor momentum is just too strong, but markets moving up. Jane Street made $40 billion in revenue last year with 3,500 employees. Wow. 39.6 billion of trading revenue. 15.5 billion in the final quarter with 3,500 employees. That is quite incredible. By the way, the option flow on Nvidia is going crazy. Absolutely crazy. I'm looking at the calls. All of these are above the ask, so they're buys, not sells. We're looking at 250 strikes, 200 strikes, 205 strikes, basically for the next couple months, May, June. And you're seeing a few million being thrown on all of them. Wow. The call options are absolutely lighting up for Nvidia right here. 209.64. AMD, did we get it? Did we get it? Is it here? She touched it. 350. That is your all-time high for AMD. Congratulations in the advanced money duplicators. AMD 350. Dude, what a day. What a day. This is kind of crazy. If you're an AMD shareholder, this has got to be surreal. Like, this has got to be a bit surreal. This is kind of like, Palantir 2024, 20 to 70 in 5 months type of stuff. I mean, this is just, and Palantir was a much smaller company than AMD in terms of market cap. So this is just like, this has got to be absolutely surreal. 350 on Mr. AMD. And she's not stopping at 350. She is not stopping at 350. I mean, put in the chat, how do you feel if you own AMD? Put in the chat, how do you feel? How do you feel? Also, if you want to disclose, you know, your position size, how much you've, what percentage you're up, how many dollars you're up on this. This is your day to brag. AMD, she's going for 351. She is not slowing down at 350 right here. Now, is this a bit aggressive before earnings? Yes, but imagine Lisa Su wipes the floor with earnings, just like Lip Butang did. And this thing just goes to 400. Like, imagine that someone's buying it at 350 right now. Someone believes there's upside, which is why it's touching these levels. 351 is 10,000 shares. 10,000 shares. Obey is up 73%. Kane is up 110%. Jay Schneider up 205. Dark Slayer has 1,000 shares at 200. Congratulations. That is up. Nitin, 238 shares at 129. That's amazing. Up a double. Mike in 2,100 shares of AMD. 7C Slayer, my net cost basis is 125. You know, the other reason this stuff is important is because it continues to remind retail. AMD in particular is one of those stories that just got demolished 3 years ago and then really didn't recover. It was the biggest laggard. But if you stayed with it, you deserve the gains. And it is a case study. It is emblematic of how retail wins. Just believing. Obviously, the company has to be good. You have to have faith in management, all that stuff, but believing and letting the compound effect happen, and boom. It really can reward you. I mean, obviously, Nvidia shareholders over the past 5 years really got to witness that, but with AMD, it is seriously taking place right here. Tanner in the chat. Tanner, we're almost at all-time highs, baby. We're almost at all-time highs. Should we call Tanner? Should we give him a little phone call? Get his reaction to this? Let's see if we can get Tanner's take on this. Tanner will be live in a couple hours as well, so I'm sure he will have plenty to talk about when it comes to Nvidia.
Brother.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. It's a great morning.
It's a pretty freaking great morning here.
It's not just Nvidia, man. This is a semi-investor. Like, I can't get over this 18-day run that we're on. It's unbelievable.
Why do you think it's happening?
I just don't think chip demand is slowing down. Like, I think for a while there was a mix of people who were concerned that something might change. Like, we all saw the sales of Nvidia. We saw the PE coming down. We saw the PE on AMD come down. But what's happening is Anthropic is compounding on their amount of customers that they have. ChatGPT is still doing amazing, and they're still doing model upgrades. They, like, even after the $1.5 trillion of compute that OpenAI signed up for, they are still asking for more today.
Yeah.
That's wild. You know?
So for someone to push back on this and say that, like, we're overbuilding or it's .com-esque, your argument would be that there is simply not enough level of infrastructure being built, which means that the idea that we're overbuilding is almost laughable.
Well, yeah, I mean, based on the information that we have today, we're not overbuilding. But if something changes and, you know, maybe we can't continue to make model improvements, like there could be another DeepSeek-like moment that ends up crashing the multiples. But if that doesn't happen, I mean, like we're getting to a point now where not even the best chip producers, not even the best data center providers will be in full demand. They all will be in demand. Like the secondary player, the tertiary players will be fully sold out.
Right.
Because not even in every enterprise and organization is even using AI right now, let alone increasing their amount of token demand.
Right.
I can't imagine if we have fully digital employees that there's ever going to be an organization that says, hey, we don't want to pay for that.
What was your reaction to the Intel earnings? I mean, I don't think you're an Intel investor, but did that also signal a CPU kind of tailwind for Nvidia?
Yeah. So I sort of saw this maybe 2 weeks ago, not a super long time ago. So I didn't invest in Intel or AMD, but that there was a sign that CPUs were going to be in massive demand due to agentic processes. So that's whenever AMD really started to turn around after March 30th or something. I feel like an idiot for not investing, but hey, I think Nvidia will do fine as well.
And then AMD right here. Do you think this is also like AMD is not growing as much as Nvidia, but the CPU shortage from Intel, if AMD ends up tapping into that S curve, maybe even better than Nvidia to an extent, is that why you think this price action might be justified for AMD as well?
Yeah, I think they're going to have stellar earnings.
Yeah,
like they're going to do extremely well.
All right. Well, congrats, man. You're part of the reason that I got into Nvidia last year. So really cool. Really cool.
Let's hope it continues, man. It's wild.
Let's hope it
and
continues.
I'm actually curious from your end as well. Like, are you using these tools more? And as they see, like, obviously you've seen what Steve has been doing. Do you think a lot of other organizations and businesses are going to do that exact same thing?
Dude, I am getting annoyed by ChatGPT because it's too slow. Like, yes, I'm using these tools every day. When I have a question now, it immediately. I actually have started asking the same question to Grok, Gemini, Claude, and GPT. Because GPT is too slow, and I want it faster. But also, I'm like, I want to actually get a diverse perspective from all of them. So my token usage is going up like crazy, and I would imagine it's not stopping. Like, it really isn't. And what we're seeing in the enterprise workflows, I know ServiceNow is down, but their tokens are like 1 trillion every other month or something. Google's is like 1 quadrillion every. Like, if this is not slowing down, this is going to be the greatest build out we've seen in the history of technology. And then the question is just going to be, can we get an ROI? And if we start to see that, then it feels like it is a very legit tech paradigm shift we're seeing right now.
Mind blowing. It's mind blowing. Who knows? Data centers in space, building silicon chips directly on the moon. I mean, there's a wild future that some are predicting.
Tanner, thanks for coming on. I'm putting Tanner's YouTube right here. He'll be live at 1 p.m. and we'll talk more about it. Tanner, appreciate you, man.
Thanks, brother. Peace.
Later. Okay. Hollis says, I spend $10 a month to make funny videos of Steve and Amit. Exactly. That's the token usage. So I will be out of here in about 5 minutes, guys, but just an unbelievable day. RBB will be on the market close. She wasn't able to make it for the market open, but we'll get her on the market close, get some of her thoughts on TA. Just unbelievable day. Unfreaking believable day. 208.40. I'm just hoping we can hold this till the end of the day. 712 S&P, 713 is the highs. Actually, 712.39 is the highs. So we are about to hit all-time highs on the S&P if that can keep going. If not, obviously, it is what it is, but it would be very fun to end out this week with a 18th consecutive day of green for the semis. And if you're an AMD and Nvidia or Intel, you got to be pretty happy. Especially for AMD. Again, for AMD, I think it's surreal. Jasmine says my cost base is 35. Julie says I'm up over 45%. Demir says up 153%. I mean, these are crazy numbers, brother. It's not like to buy an asset and then to have it appreciate at the up 153%, even if that's over 4 years. Like, for something to double over 4 years is not easy. And for most people, I mean, it could have freaking doubled within the past year. Could be up at least 70, 80% within the past 2 weeks. But this thing fell to 205. So it is just such a cool thing for retail across different sectors to experience it. I'm in Nvidia from $9.8. My boy Louis texted me the other day. He has 100,000 shares at a $2 average. I don't know if he's in the chat, but if he is, and it's all on Robinhood. So he got a nice percentage match for going to Robinhood, but he's definitely got to be enjoying this type of move right here. I'm up 348% on Nvidia. I'm up 50,000 at 19 years old. Congratulations. The youngins are getting into the game early. They're getting in early. It's just, it's not a waiting game anymore. Like, people know markets, especially when it comes to technology, have a path to financial freedom. But you got to get in as soon as possible. Nvidia is still 208. AMD 348 right now. All right. That is it for me. Incredible stuff. Didn't expect this to happen on a Friday, but very happy it did. Unfortunately, I'm getting a headline right here. Wisconsin is suing Kalshi, Robinhood, Coinbase, and Polymarket. Robinhood and Coinbase not really affected that much by the headline, but that is a headline. We're going to see a lot more of these. The prediction markets, as much as there is a big TAM for them, they are definitely getting under the threat of some of these regulators. So now Polymarket, I get more than not, because Polymarket's like some offshore crypto app where nothing's regulated. Kalshi, Robinhood, and Coinbase are regulated by the CFTC. So they are literally following the rules. They're not even like... The CFTC said it's okay, and they're following it. That's federal, right? Polymarket, I get. Like, Polymarket is, anything can happen there. But you do have that headline there just coming in. You're seeing some of that potentially go red. Do you think Poet would dilute this? I mean, they diluted in January. I don't know if they would dilute here. I mean, it makes sense for them. The stock's up a lot, but no one exactly knows when or if that would happen. ServiceNow getting a little bit of a pump. Poet there 15, PayPal 49.83, Tesla 375, Qualcomm at 145.90. That as well making a move today. Nvidia 208.60. We did touch 209.74. AMD 347.65. We did touch 350. All right. That is it for me. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Congratulations. Should be a fun Friday. Let's just see if we can hold on to it. And if we do, then it'll be a nice way to end out the week and enter into the weekend. Always fun to see this type of a day. And we're getting it. And all of us have to thank Intel because Intel just proved there's a next leg of an S-curve to this bull market. That is in the CPU space. Dilatory, slow to act, causing delay is the word of the day. Being dilatory with exits can turn a small loss into a big one. Dilatory. I feel like I'm saying that wrong. Dilatory? Dilatory. Let's see.
Dilatory.
Okay. I was doing deal or del. It was dilatory. Or no, it was dilatory.
Dilatory.
Dilatory. All right. The real word of the day is 3 words of the day. Advanced money duplicator. Big day for AMD, for Nvidia. Congratulations, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for being here. See you guys on the market close. Bye, everybody. Have a good one.